Chapter 381. Peng. Under the radiance of the dragon's spirit sword, the iron plate of the Dragon Abyss tribe was smashed into pieces, and the countless green vines that were entrenched on the side were turned into juice, splashing everywhere. The aura was so powerful that the guards on the side were forced to retreat. In the next moment, Lin Muyu had already rushed out of the Dragon Abyss with Chu Chu. His face was full of anger as he looked at the surrounding people. "Lin Ji, you traitor!" Not far away, the Saint Emperor roared with a face full of killing intent. "This emperor appreciates you so much, bestowed you the title of spiritual venerable, and even betrothed the fourth princess to you. Yet you don't know what's good for you and instead entered the Dragon Abyss to collude with that treacherous traitor Chu Chu. Men, seize them for me. I want to cook these two people in a pot of oil." In the surroundings, 3 spiritual venerables, 27 demon venerables, and many martial venerables all pulled out their weapons, their faces full of murderous intent. Chu Chu landed on the ground. Although his clothes were torn and rotten, his aura of an expert was not angry. He lightly stroked his beard and said, "You grandpa will look at you. If you can't win, I will help you." "Good." Lin Muyu's sword trembled as he looked at the group of spiritual venerables and demon venerables rushing towards him. Just as their weapons were a few meters away from him, his mental energy suddenly exploded, and an invisible domain pressure descended on the surroundings. The god-binding chains and the golden gourd on his body shone brightly, immobilizing the group of spiritual venerables and demon venerables. "Die." He abruptly raised his iron fist. The power of the ghost god swirled around his fist and blasted it out brazenly. For Luminary's demon cry. Ping. Blood vaporized, and the bodies of a spiritual venerable and 5 demon venerables were immediately turned into a pile of blood and minced meat. Lin Muyu suddenly threw out his sword, and with a poochie sound, it pierced through the neck of a spiritual venerable. With a light flick of his finger, he used the power of the fire sword to change the trajectory of the long sword, and went straight for the chests of the other 3 demon venerables. "Ah, ah!" Miserable howls rang out incessantly. In the blink of an eye, another 3 people had lost their lives. How was this a battle? It was completely a massacre. A demon lord's face was pale and the spear in his hand was still trembling. He slowly retreated and murmured, "Impossible. Bible. How could Lin Ji be so strong? A bunch of trash." The Saint Emperor roared in anger, abruptly releasing his aura. Another Saint Realm. Pulling out the guard sword, the Sage Emperor roared and slashed at Lin Muyu. Plang. Lin Muyu directly used the wall of the gourd to block. Sparks flew from the dragon armor and she felt a sharp pain in her body. The Saint Emperor's attack was indeed extraordinary. In the blink of an eye, the Saint Emperor had struck out more than 10 times with his sword, forcibly breaking the wall of the gourd. His face was filled with malevolence as he roared, "Lin Ji, die!" Voila! All of a sudden, a golden gourd vine erupted from the ground before binding around the Saint Emperor's feet. Lin Muyu unleashed her falling star steps, but the blade of her sword was blocked with a loud clang. However, a dazzling ribbon of stars materialized in her left hand, and it was none other than the second technique of her star mantra, Astral Chain. The Saint Emperor was completely immobilized, and Lin Muyu abruptly pierced through his suit of battle armor, leaving a gaping wound on his chest. "Bastard!" In his fury, the Saint Emperor's aura soared, and scorching battle light surged around his body in a frenzy, materializing the same holy heaven realm light as Chu Chu's. He instantly broke free of the astral chain and the gourd vine before unleashing a palm strike onto Lin Muyu's chest. Bam! Lin Muyu was sent flying back with blood gushing from her mouth. Never would she have thought that the Saint Emperor would also be a Saint Realm 3rd-level powerful being. Thankfully, the Saint Emperor didn't cultivate a martial soul. Otherwise, he would have been able to kill her with a palm that was enhanced by his martial soul. "Allow me, you." Chu Chu abruptly leaped forward and arrived in front of Lin Muyu. He raised his palm and the fire cauldron whistled forth to form a massive barrier. Bam! The Saint Emperor's ferocious palm strike struck the fire cauldron, and boundless fiery energy erupted forth, incinerating even the nearby guards to death. However, his palm was unable to do anything to Chu Chu's fire cauldron. How could this be? The Saint Emperor's eyes were filled with astonishment. A faint smile appeared on Chu Chu's face. "Do you think I'm still the same as I was 3 years ago?" If it weren't for the fact that I had to invent my own dragon-slaying mantra, I would have exited the dragon abyss long ago to kill you." As he spoke, Chu Chu unleashed a nonchalant palm strike, and scorching flames surged into the heavens. Arg! The Saint Emperor didn't even have the strength to fight back. His body was locked down by Chu Chu's Saint Realm aura and he couldn't move at all. Just like that, he was turned into a pile of ashes in the flames. Both of them were at the Saint Realm third heaven, but the difference in their combat power was like heaven and earth. Lin Muyu retracted the armor's effect and let Acatosaurus return to the alternate dimension. She raised her long sword and looked at the crowd. "The Saint Emperor is dead. There's no need for you to follow anyone anymore. Disperse." The crowd was dumbfounded. All the spiritual venerables had been killed and half of the demon venerables were dead. The palace in the chaotic realm was now without a leader. "Lord Linji." A demon venerable trembled as he said, How do you plan to deal with the chaotic realm?" Chu Chu had killed the Saint Emperor, and his strength was already at the top of the chaotic realm. Therefore he was the ruler of this world. That was why the demon venerable asked such a question. Lin Muyu said, "We're just passers-by. The future of the chaotic realm has nothing to do with us." "But, Lord Demon Venerable, do you know where the Saint Emperor's treasure is? Bring us there. We'll leave after we get the treasure." "Lord." The Demon Venerable turned around and brought Lin Muyu and Chu Chu into the depths of the palace. Chu Chu frowned. Then he ordered the group of palace maids to disperse and let them go home. In the depths of the palace, the Saint Emperor's chamber was filled with jewels and treasures. Piles of jewels were piled up like a mountain. There were also some weapons. Chu Chu found a space bag and started to store the jewels. Lin Muyu came to a pile of weapons. The Saint Emperor's eyesight was not bad. He had stored a lot of god weapons. The best spear was actually a saint tool. It was made from the 10,000 years fire flood dragon. It was similar to Qin Yan's fire serpent spear. Therefore she kept it in the cosmos bag. Qin Yan was one of the deputy commanders of the Longdan army camp. His strength and prestige were among the best in the army. He was worthy of this spear. The two of them kept the jewels from dawn to dusk. They used a total of 4 space bags and emptied the Saint Emperor's treasures. After exiting the cellar, there was no one left in the palace. All the guards, palace maids and concubines had already left. Only a few crying princesses were looking at Lin Muyu with red eyes. The 4th princess had an aggrieved look. She cried and said, "Spirit Venerable Linji, since I am your woman, you have to bring me away. I cannot stay here." Chu Chu couldn't help but laugh. You are quite lucky with women." Lin Muyu was extremely embarrassed. "Chu, don't joke with me. I haven't even touched a single strand of her hair. She is also not my woman. Moreover, she is not worthy." Chu Chu nodded and said, "That's right. Princess Shi and Her Highness Yin are all above her in terms of looks." "I'm not talking about this." Lin Muyu was a little speechless. "All right, it's about time. Let's hurry back." After storing the space bag properly, Lin Muyu once again summoned Acatosaurus to transform into armor. He spread his wings and flew into the sky with Chu Chu. They directly arrived at the 2nd level of the chaotic realm. Then he flew directly to the 1st level and killed a few chaos worms on the way. He threw the corpses down to the lower realm as gifts for Devon and the rest. He also conveniently kept the spirit stones. Spirit stones were good stuff. Whether it was to sell them for money or to forge weapons, they were good. The empire had just been rebuilt and there was a shortage of money everywhere. Lin Muyu's Longdan army camp now had 20,000 soldiers again. The demand for weapons and equipment was getting higher and higher. Naturally, they needed money even more. Therefore, he had no intention of taking out the treasures that he kept in his cosmos bag. If he contributed them to the national treasury, they would become the wealth of the 2 Grand Dukes. If he kept them in his hands, he could sell these treasures and upgrade the equipment of the Longdan army camp by another level. Why not? However, Chu Chu was an honest person. He would definitely give the treasures in his 3 space bags to Qin Yin. Strolling in the barren space of the 1st level of the chaotic realm, Lin Muyu tried her best to find the direction where she came in. She said to Chu Chu, "Chu, after you return to the empire, don't reject whatever rewards Xiao Yin gives you. It's best if she can give you some official titles with real power. This way you can share some of the pressure with Xiao Yin." "Share the pressure? What do you mean?" Chu Chu was stunned. Lin Muyu said, Chu, you're focused on cultivation and don't care about the affairs of the world, so you don't know. The reason why Lanyan City was breached was because the two Grand Dukes, Tang Lan and Su Muyun, didn't move their troops. They watched as the imperial capital was destroyed with 400,000 troops in their hands. They only led their troops out after the empire was destroyed and overthrew Xiao Yin's imperial power in one fell swoop. Therefore the real people in power in the empire are the two Grand Dukes, not Xiao Yin. I don't want this situation to continue. So after you return to Lanyan City you must help Xiao Yin more. It can't be, right? Chu frowned and said, Tang Lan and Su Muyun are my old acquaintances. Why would they do such a rebellious thing? You'll know after you return to Lanyan City. Lin Muyu touched her nose and smiled. The two Grand Dukes are afraid that Xiao Yin will have more military power in her hands. If it wasn't for the invasion of the devil race, I'm afraid that my Longdan army camp wouldn't even have the power to expand. I see. I understand. Chu said faintly, don't worry you. Chu is highly regarded by the late Empress and will definitely assist Her Highness. If Tang Lan and Su Muyun really have the intention to rebel, Chu will be the first to not let them off. Yes, it's great that Grandpa Chu has returned to the Empire. I don't have to worry about Xiao Yin's safety anymore. I can also focus on fighting and recovering her lost territories. Yes. At this time Lin Muyu had already arrived at the place to enter the Chaos Realm. Her eyes turned cold as she said, we're here. Prepare to penetrate the plane. Grandpa Chu just rush in with me later. Bending her body slightly, the golden divine power swirled in her palm. Lin Muyu let out a roar and activated her spiritual sense to attack. Suddenly, a space crack with a radius of 1 meter appeared 8 meters in front of her. She used her spiritual sense to check it out. Through the bloody cyclone, she could see the Blood Lord and his subordinates guarding the floor of the Tong Tian Tower. It's here. Chapter 382. Foosh swoosh. Two figures shrouded in golden light shuttled out of the plane and landed on the first floor of the Tower of Babel. Before Chu landed, he had already opened up the territory of the Holy Heaven State. His entire body was wrapped in a cold cyclone, and his powerful aura stunned the Blood Lord and the others on the Tower of Babel. Unknowingly, the Blood Lord and his battle bear made a gesture of submission. Lin Muyu followed closely behind. The dragon-armored wings behind her quickly dispersed, and she landed on the stone tower. She smiled and said, Blood Lord, I've invited Chu back. The Blood Lord's face was full of awe. He said respectfully, I didn't expect Lord Chu to have entered the Holy Heaven State. Chu cupped his fists and smiled, Greetings, Blood Lord. Thank you, Blood Lord, for making an exception and letting Ayu enter the strange space to find this dying old man. Thank you, Blood Lord. Lord Chu, you're too polite. The Blood Lord's expression didn't look good. He said, I don't have much to entertain here, so I won't keep you for the night. It was already night time. Lin Muyu nodded and smiled. Chu, let's go back to Lanyan City. The two of them walked down the stairs of the tower. The moment they opened the metal door, a few imperial guards ran over from afar. One of them was the centurion that Lin Muyu had entrusted her with. His face was filled with surprise as he said, Commander Yu, you're back? This is... Chu slowly lifted his tattered cloak and revealed an old face. He said, General, you don't know me. But I know you. The centurion quickly knelt down on one knee and said respectfully, Greetings, Lord Chu. Behind him, a group of imperial guards knelt down one after another. Chu's reputation in the empire wasn't below that of the two dukes. In the eyes of cultivators, he was far above the two dukes. He deserved such respect. Oh, how do you know someone like me who has left for 3 years? Chu was stunned. The centurion smiled. Chu must have forgotten that there is a portrait of you in the Zetian Palace Hall. I've seen it before. I see. Get up, there's no need to stand on ceremony. Yes, my lord. Lin Muyu said, Bring my treading snow here and give Chu a horse to escort us back to Zetian Hall. Yes, Commander Rain. They didn't encounter any obstacles on their way into the city, and the highest commander of the royal guards on duty that night was Zhang Wei. When he saw Lin Muyu and Chu on the city wall, he jumped down and laughed. Commander Yu? Lord Chu? Oh my god, you're back. Lin Muyu nodded and smiled. Old Zhang, take us to see Her Highness. It's already so late, I'm afraid Her Highness is already asleep. Don't worry, this is good news. Xiaoyin won't blame us. Yes. They rushed to Zetian Palace Hall. It was late at night, and when Lin Muyu brought Chu Chu, Zhang Wei and the rest to the outside of Zetian Palace Hall, she asked a maid to inform them. Within a few minutes, Qin Yin's graceful figure appeared in the hall. She was wearing the Empress's robe and white pajamas, but she came in a hurry. Her jade-like feet stepped on the cold jade floor and her eyes were filled with joy. Lord Chu Chu, you are still alive. That's great, that's great. Chu Chu smiled faintly and knelt on one knee. Wei, this old subject Chu Chu greets your highness. I hope your highness will forgive me for escaping to another plane. This old subject really doesn't want to die in vain under Lolan's hands. Lord Chu Chu, you don't have to blame yourself. Qin Yin was full of joy. It's the Empire's fortune that you can return to Lanyan City. Lin Mu smiled. Xiaoyin, there's another good news. Chu has stepped into the Saint Realm Level 3. With Brother Feng and me, even if Luolan comes to Lanyan City again, we won't lose. Yes, that's great. Chu Chu took a deep breath, stood up and said, Your Highness, Chu Chu is untalented, but I am willing to be your teacher again. Moreover, this time Chu Chu has brought back a newly created martial art for your Highness to cultivate. Qin Yin was overjoyed. Good. That's great. Lin Muyu said, Xiaoyin, send someone to Duke Lan's and Duke Yun's mansions to pass the news that Chu is back. Tomorrow, all the ministers will have a meeting in Zetian Palace Hall. You should confer a title to Chu. Yes. Qin Yin blinked and said, More than 1,000 years ago the Empire used to have the title of Minister of War. During non-war times he had the authority to mobilize the entire nation's troops. I plan to reactivate the position of Minister of War and give it to Lord Chu Chu. Brother Yu, do you think it's appropriate? It's appropriate, but it won't be easy to get past Duke Lan and Duke Yun. So tomorrow you, General Feng, Lord Wei Chou, Zhang Wei and the others must help me. Yes. That night Lin Muyu and Chu Chu stayed in Zetian Palace Hall. Moreover, Chu Chu didn't sleep the whole night. He burned the candle and wrote down all 7 levels of the Dragon Slayer art. The next morning Feng Jixing, Wei Chou, Qin Yan and the others came after hearing the news. They all greeted Chu Chu. Chu Chu was naturally overjoyed to see so many young generals in the Empire. Ever since Lin Muyu talked about the current situation in the Empire's court, Chu Chu unconsciously felt a sense of responsibility. As long as he became Minister of War, he could no longer be the carefree mausoleum guardian who pursued medicine refinement. He had to take up the responsibility he should. The bell reverberated. After Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing and the others enjoyed the royal breakfast in Zetian Palace Hall, the morning meeting was about to begin. In the main hall the officials lined up respectfully. Chu Chu stood in front of the 2 commander-level generals Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing. His face was solemn, and he exuded an aura of power that made all the cultivators present feel reverence. This was an absolute power. Even Lin Muyu couldn't resist Chu Chu's Saint Realm pressure, not to mention others. Congratulations to Lord Chu Chu for returning to the Empire. Su Muyun cupped his fists respectfully. Chu Chu nodded and smiled. Chu Chu was chased to another plane. I'm really ashamed. On the other hand, Duke Yun, the 3 armies of Sunset Rain City recovered the Empire's lost land. It's admirable. Lord Chu Chu overpraises me. Tang Lan also walked over with Tang Lu, Tang Tian and Tang Wei. He cupped his fists respectfully and said, Old General Tang Lan greets Chu Chu. Chu Chu's return to the Empire is the Empire's fortune. Among the white-robed imperial guards bestowed titles by the former emperor, only Lord Chu, Feng Jixing and Lord Yao Yuan are still alive. Chu Chu nodded calmly and said, Duke Lan is the pillar of the Empire and his granddaughter, Princess Shi, led the demonic beasts and achieved the Empire's #1 military merit. Congratulations. I hope that Duke Lan's family is loyal and will continue to serve the Empire. Of course. Tang Lan smiled faintly, but there was no change in his expression. At this time, Qin Yin entered the main hall under the escort of a few maids. Her beautiful eyes swept over the officials and she said with a smile, I invited everyone to Zetian Palace Hall so early today for one thing. Lord Chu Chu has returned. Everyone said, Congratulations, Your Highness, on obtaining another right-hand man. Qin Yin smiled faintly and said, Lord Chu Chu is a white-robed imperial guard bestowed by my imperial father, the princess's grand tutor, and is also my teacher. Furthermore, he is the Empire's right-hand man. This time, Lord Chuchu's cultivation has improved and he will definitely be given an important position. Therefore, I have decided to restore the Empire's Great Minister of War, from over 1,000 years ago, and bestow Lord Chuchu with the title of Great Minister of War. The Ministry of War's Minister Xueling was stunned. Tang Lu, who was beside him, kept signaling him with his eyes, so he cupped his fists and said, "Your Highness, the position of Great Minister of War has been abandoned since 1,000 years ago. I hope Your Highness will consider it carefully. Moreover, the Great Minister of War is in charge of all the Empire's troops. Although Lord Chuchu is a person of virtue and prestige, he is a cultivator after all and has never led troops directly. Your Highness, please reconsider." The officials behind Tang Lon all knelt down and said, "Your Highness, please reconsider." "You all?" Qin Yin held back her anger, but her little face was filled with unhappiness. At this moment, Lin Muyu stepped out and cupped her fists and said with a clear voice, "Your Highness, the Great Minister of War is only a title. He is in charge of all the troops in the Empire, but it doesn't mean that he can lead troops directly into battle. Chuchu's prestige is enough to take on the position of Great Minister of War, and there are generals like Feng Jixing and Xiang Yu who can lead troops into battle. Therefore, I don't think there's anything inappropriate about it. Lord Chuchu is worthy of this position." As he spoke, he pressed his palm down lightly. Immediately, Zhang Wei, Wei Chou, Luo Yu, Qin Yan, Fengxi, and the other generals behind him all knelt down and cupped their fists and said, "I second Commander Yu's suggestion. I hope Your Highness will bestow Lord Chuchu with the position of Great Minister of War." Feng Jixing couldn't help but snicker in his heart. He cupped his fists and said, "I second the suggestion. Lord Chuchu is worthy of this position." At this moment, almost all eyes were on the Su clan. Whichever side Su Muyun supported, that side would be completely one-sided. At this moment, Su Muyun furrowed his brows and remained silent. In the end, Sir cupped his fists and said, "This lowly general believes that Sir Chuchu is worthy of this position. Your Majesty, please do not hesitate. This is a matter of life and death for the Empire. With Sir Chuchu as the Great Minister, he will be able to gather the hearts of the people, motivate the soldiers of the three armies, and make all of the cultivators within the Empire work for us." Since his daughter had already said so, Su Muyun naturally did not say anything more. He cupped his fists and said, "This old subject agrees with Commander Yu." Immediately, at least 20 generals and ministers of the Su clan behind Su Muyun knelt down and said in unison, "We agree with Commander Yu." "Thank you, grandfather." The corners of Qin Yin's mouth curled up and she smiled very sweetly. She said, "Someone, draft an imperial edict immediately and confer Sir Chuchu the title of Empress's Grand Tutor, Minister of War, and receive the salary of a duke. Also, build a residence for the Minister of War in the South Hall of Zetian Palace. Sir Chuchu can stay in Zetian Palace from now on." "Yes, Your Majesty." The minister cupped his fists respectfully. At this moment, Lin Muyu finally heaved a sigh of relief. Chuchu had returned and obtained the title of Great Minister of War. As long as the Great Minister of War's token was carved, he would be able to command all the soldiers within the Empire. Although the situation of the two dukes in the Empire would not change in a short period of time, at least it had begun to be shaken. "You've stepped into the Saint Domain?" Feng Jixing suddenly asked. "You saw through me." Lin Muyu chuckled. "Tinyu Tower will treat me to a drink tonight. All right, I'll go over after I'm done with the matters of the Divine Temple. Don't be late." I'm never late for a drink." Chapter 383. In the afternoon, Qin Yin went to arrange for Chuchu's residence. As the Empress's tutor, Chuchu lived in Zetian Palace Hall. Furthermore, he could protect Qin Yin. Lin Muyu returned to the Holy Temple and was stunned by the pile of files in the Great Deacon's office. "What's wrong, Great Deacon?" Guyang asked with a smile. Lin Muyu felt her scalp go numb and said, "Grandfather Guyang, the Holy Temple should hire a few civil officials. Many of these files don't need me to go through them personally. It's a waste of my time." Guyang stroked his beard and laughed. "I understand. I will let Deacon Jing pick some qualified civil officials later. However, most of the people in the Holy Temple are warriors and not many of them are literate. There will be some." "Yes." Lin Muyu calmed herself down and sat down. She flipped through the files one by one. It was still about the selection of personnel from the various holy temples and the allocation of funds. It was very tedious and boring compared to cultivation. Fortunately, Lin Muyu could silently cultivate the remnant scroll of the forging dragon bone so that she wouldn't waste so much time. Before dusk, the guard outside suddenly said respectfully, "Great Deacon, the commander of the Imperial Guards, Feng Jixing, requests an audience. Will let him in." "Yes." Feng Jixing entered the office and sat on the corner of the Great Deacon's desk. He laughed. "Oh, Great Deacon, are you going through the memorials again? They are only files. Only the emperors are called memorials." Lin Muyu looked up at him and laughed. "Didn't we agree to have a drink tonight? Why are you here so early, Brother Feng?" Feng Jixing laughed heartily. "Before we drink, I want to bring you to a place. Where? Ministry of Works, Weapons Department." "Weapons Department? Yes, let's go. Put down your files. The treasures there are much more powerful than these." After exiting the sacred hall, Lin Muyu mounted a horse and rode on Takshu. She and Feng Jixing galloped towards the Ministry of Works of the Empire. Neither of them brought any guards with them. There was no need at all. Who would dare to target them? The war horses were very fast. After entering the Ministry of Works, there were all sorts of supervision of craftsmanship along the way. When Feng Jixing brought Lin Muyu into the depths of the Ministry of Works, they finally saw a very dignified building in the distance. It was heavily guarded with at least 200 guards surrounding it. It seemed that there was indeed a secret hidden here. "Do you still remember Qin Xiling?" Feng Jixing asked. "Remember? What happened to Xiling?" "Without your permission, I directly asked for this person on behalf of the Minister of Works, Ouyang He. Qin Xiling's beast-hunting repeating crossbows are of excellent quality, so the skilled craftsmen of the Ministry of Works modified them according to his blueprints. You'll see it soon." "Okay." The two of them arrived at the main entrance of the weapons department. Immediately, the guards cupped their fists respectfully. "General Feng, Commander Yu." Feng Jixing nodded. "Bring us in. Commander Yu and I want to see the power of the arrow box." "Yes." A centurion respectfully brought the two of them into the weapons department. Not long after, an official in a civilian uniform came forward. He was about 50 years old, but his face was pale and wrinkled. He cupped his fists and smiled. "Ouyang, he greets General Feng and Commander Yu." Feng Jixing smiled. "Master Ouyang, you don't have to be so polite. I brought Commander Yu to see our new weapon." "Yes, Commander Yu, this way please." Lin Mei was confused. What exactly was this arrow box? Was it a new weapon that could fire continuously, similar to a repeating crossbow? If it was, she had already seen it before. It was just that she didn't know how to make it and didn't understand the principles behind it. Ouyang, he brought the two of them to the shooting range of the weapons department. Not far away, a group of people dressed in Ministry of Works civilian uniforms were fiddling with a black box. The box was filled with holes from the arrowheads. It was indeed the legendary arrow box. One of these civilian officials was Qin Xiling. When he saw Lin Muyu, he quickly stood up and said respectfully, "Xiling greets head deacon." Lin Muyu saw at a glance that Qin Xiling's rank had been promoted to Chiliarch. Being in the weapons department, it seemed that he had also been incorporated into the Imperial Army. She nodded and smiled. "Xiling doesn't need to be so polite," Qin Xiling said with some shame. "Xiling joined the weapons department without the Great Manager's permission. I'm really sorry, Great Manager. Please forgive me." Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. She patted Qin Xiling's shoulder and said, "Silly boy, don't say such silly things. I can't be more than happy for you to have your talents in the weapons department." "Great Manager is really happy for Xiling?" "Yes, show me the weapons you've developed." "Yes." Qin Xiling gave the order. Two soldiers slowly moved the arrow box and aimed at a target in the distance. This target was very far away, about 200 meters away. This was the upper limit of the bow's range. Moreover, the target was made of a very thick piece of wood. Seemed to be half a meter thick. Lin Muyu frowned as her eyes fell on the arrows in the box. Ouyang, he smiled faintly and took an arrow from the table. The arrowhead was covered in a fiery glow. He smiled and said, "This arrow is specially made. It has been tempered with a fire poison. This fire poison is the venom of the southern sky bamboo and continental grass. It can kill the target on contact with blood. Even the powerful vitality of the armor demons can't resist this poison. Lin Muyu was surprised. She asked, "Have you tested this poison on the armor demons?" "Yes." Ouyang he nodded. "Fortunately, Commander, you brought back a few living armor demons from the Rice River camp. That's why we were able to test it. Unfortunately, these armor demons didn't have a cure and died." "Hey. Okay, get ready to shoot." "Yes." A soldier pulled the wrench and suddenly pulled it. Suddenly, the sound of a spring twisting came from the arrow box. It was followed by a series of so-so-so sounds. Nearly 40 arrows were shot out in an instant. The target in the distance was like a wall. Countless arrows drilled into the wall. The power of the arrows was amazing. The target was shaken and dust flew up. "Let's go and see," Feng Jixing said. "Yes." Lin Muyu stepped forward and came in front of the target. She gently pulled out an arrow. This arrow was made of steel. The arrowhead was very sharp. It directly pierced 20 centimeters deep into the wooden target. "Ouyang," he said with a proud smile, "the best archer in the Empire's army can only do this much." Not necessarily. Lin Muyu had seen Wei Chao's archery. From 200 meters away, Wei Chao would definitely be able to penetrate this kind of target. He gently raised his hand and pulled out the dragon spirit sword. After thinking for a while, he silently circulated his qi and slashed out. Suddenly, the blade of the sword was surrounded by a swirling qi. With a bang sound, a 40-centimeter hole was made on the wooden target. "Commander Yu, what are you doing?" Ouyang he looked surprised. Lin Muyu said, "I've fought with armor demons face to face. So I know the hardness and toughness of their shells. That's about the strength needed to split open the hard shell of an armor demon. So, Master Ouyang, unless your arrow box can penetrate 40 centimeters deep into the target, you won't be able to penetrate the shell of an armor demon, let alone poison it to death." Ouyang he frowned. "This is going to be difficult." At this time, Qin Xiling said from behind, "Master Ouyang, give me some time." This subordinate is confident that he can continue to improve the arrow box and make it meet Commander Yu's requirements. Moreover, there is still room for improvement in our arrow forging. As long as we hire a good enough craftsman, I believe we can penetrate the hard shell of an armor demon. Ouyang he said with joy, "Can Xiling really do it?" "This subordinate will do his best." Qin Xiling said sincerely. Lin Muyu also smiled and said, "If Xiling can really improve the arrow box and make it a sharp weapon to kill armor demons, then I will recommend you to Her Highness Qin Yin as the head of the weapons department." Qin Xiling said with joy, "Thank you, Commander Yu. Xiling will do his best." At this time, Ouyang he said, "In addition to the arrow box, we also studied the ballista and ballista. General Feng, Commander Yu, will you follow me to take a look?" "Okay, please lead the way, Master Ouyang." Qin Xiling went to draw the blueprints while the Minister of Works, Ouyang he, was very excited. The weapons department had always been the department that was least favored by the major dynasties of the empire. This was because the Qin Empire had always neglected the research of weapons. The empire revered martial arts. Qin Jin had always encouraged his people to practice martial arts and archery, but he had never encouraged the research of weapons. This time Feng Jixing and Lin Muyu, these two imperial commanders who held great power, regarded the weapons department so highly. This was enough to make Ouyang he feel extremely flattered. Naturally, he would put in even more effort in recommending new weapons. Ballista was divided into single ballista and multiple ballista. Compared to the arrow box, the single ballista had fewer shots, but the advantage was that it was light and portable, far less heavy than the arrow box. Ouyang he said proudly, "This kind of ballista can penetrate 50 centimeters of wood with one arrow. If the distance is close enough, it can penetrate the body of an armor demon. However, the requirement to aim at the head is too high." Lin Muyu nodded and didn't say anything. Ouyang he then pointed to a machine that was about the height of two people and said, "This is the legendary ballista. Can shoot boulders and arrows with great power. It needs more than 10 people to operate and can't be fired. Moreover, it is very heavy and not suitable for battle." Feng Jixing licked his lips and looked up with a smile. "It looks quite mighty." Lin Muyu's eyes lit up and said, "If this ballista is equipped with sharp stones, will it be able to shoot through the sideboards of ordinary warships?" "Yes, it definitely can." Ouyang he said excitedly, "Commander Yu, what do you mean?" "Just make it a little smaller and it can be equipped on the warships of the Empire's navy. Lin Muyu said complacently, the demons aren't fools. Sooner or later they will fight to the death with us on the Dao River. Moreover, the Iha nation will fight with us sooner or later. If we don't develop water-based weapons, it will be difficult to subdue them. Ouyang He's face was flushed. I understand, but the Jinin dollars that the weapons department has applied for has been delayed. Duke Lan and Duke Yun aren't interested in developing weapons, so the file has been stuck in the front hall of Zetian Palace and can't reach Her Highness. Give me the file, I will hand it directly to Her Highness. Lin Mu smiled. Ouyang He was ecstatic. Vid. Thank you, Commander Yu. Feng Jixing also smiled at the side. Are we still drinking tonight? Let's drink after meeting Xiao Yin. Alright. Chapter 384. A dossier from the weapons department? Qin Yin looked at the scarlet scroll that Lin Muyu handed over in surprise. Yes, it's from the weapons department. There was no one else in Zetian Palace Hall, so Lin Muyu sat at Qin Yin's table and said with a smile, perhaps in the future we can only rely on the weapons department's research to defeat the demons. Can we really defeat the demons? Qin Yin blinked her big beautiful eyes. Of course. Feng Jixing said from a short distance away. He was lying on the table to the right of the Empress's table and was admiring the murals in the hall. He curled his lips and said, the paintings are really good. The figures of those young ladies are vivid and lifelike. As expected, none of these painters are good people. Qin Yin chuckled. These two commanders of the empire didn't look like commanders at all when there was no one around. They looked like two ruffians bullying the Empress. But it requires a lot of money. Qin Yin looked at the dossier carefully and said, 30 million Jin dollars. It's okay. Compared to the 500 million Jin dollars spent to build the steel wall, this is nothing. If these weapons are really developed, it can be used to build 10 steel walls. Lin Muyu said. Alright then. Qin Yin wrote her name on the dossier with a wave of her pen, stamped the Empress's seal and handed it to Lin Muyu. In that case, brother, you will be in charge of the manufacturing. Great. By the way, Shaoxi, Linghu Yan and Tangzhen will be coming to Lanyan City tonight. Brother Yu and General Feng, do you want to come? Qin Yin asked. Shaoxi is back from the demon subduing pass? What's the matter? Lin Muyu asked. Bring Linghu Yan and the 10 demon generals to swear loyalty to the empire. Really? Lin Muyu was overjoyed. Shaoxi is really capable. She really managed to convince the demon race to be loyal to the empire. With the demon race's military strength, we will have more capital to fight against the demon race and the Iha kingdom. Yes. Qin Yin nodded slightly. We've sent many people into Winter Ridge province in disguise these days and got back a lot of information. It's said that the demon Marshal Qianfeng is establishing a new order in Winter Frost City. He's enslaved human craftsmen to build siege ladders, siege chariots and other machines. Moreover, he sent 30,000 armor demons to build a shipyard at the lower reaches of Rice River. Seems that he wants to build ships. I've long guessed that Qianfeng would do this. Lin Muyu's lips twitched. Qianfeng is both brave and intelligent. He'll always be a great threat to us. His threat is even more serious than Long Qianlin's. Feng Jixing said, the demon race is powerful. The relationship between us and the Iha kingdom is gradually changing. There were even rumors a few days ago that the Iha kingdom wants to form an alliance with us to fight against the demon race. Qin Yin frowned. What do you think if the Iha kingdom really wants to form an alliance with us? Feng Jixing clenched his fists. This general believes that we can form an alliance. But the moment we defeat the demon race will be the day we start a war with the Iha kingdom. Lin Muyu nodded. We will forever remember the blood feud between the Iha kingdom and us. If Qin Yi and Long Qianlin don't die, we will be letting down Big Brother Chu Huayin, Big Brother Qin Lei and Grandpa Lei Hong's spirit in heaven. Yes. Qin Yin smiled. Xiaoyin knows what to do. Night Tingyu Tower. After reopening, the Tingyu Tower's reputation was still good. However, the price of the dishes had dropped a lot. After all, after the war 3 years ago, the country's strength was not as good as before. Feng Jixing, Lin Muyu, Zhang Wei, Wei Chou, Luo Yu and a few other important generals sat around the table and drank to their heart's content. They hadn't been so relaxed for a long time. When they were about 50 to 60% drunk, a guard from the Longdan army camp walked forward and cupped his fists. Commander Yu, Zaytian Palace has sent someone to invite the generals to Zaytian Palace for a discussion. The Princess Xi is here. Xiao Xi is here. Lin Mu put down her wine cup and smiled. Anyway, we have eaten and drank to our fill. Scope. Business is more important. Yes. After paying for the wine, everyone went downstairs and mounted their horses. They galloped all the way to Zaytian Palace. At night, Zaytian Palace was brightly lit. When Lin Muyu and the others arrived, Tang Lon, Su Muyun and the newly promoted Minister of War Chu Chu were already there. Tang Xiaoxi was dressed in a red dress. She was as beautiful as a flower. She walked over with a smile. Mu, tell me, how many days has it been since we last met? I forgot. Lin Muyu said boldly. You have no conscience. Tang Xiaoxi glared at him and said, I heard that you have stepped into the Saint region? Yes. That's good. Tang Xiaoxi widened her eyes and looked deeply at his face. Although it was a happy thing to be stared at by a peerless beauty, Lin Muyu still felt goosebumps all over his body. He couldn't help but say, Xiaoxi, why are you looking at me like that? I'm not a plate of roast chicken. Tang Xiaoxi giggled and said, I was thinking that since Mu has already stepped into the Saint region, you have already obtained the ability to maintain your youthful appearance. Your appearance will always remain at this moment. A 26-year-old Saint region. Our Mu will definitely be the most handsome Saint region expert in the world. Feng Jixing coughed at the side. Princess Xi, this general is also a Saint region expert. But you are not as handsome as Mu. Tang Xiaoxi told him the truth. Feng Jixing touched his nose. To me, Feng Jixing, Princess Xi's words are like a cold blade in the 8th month of the lunar calendar. Tang Lu, who was standing at the side, couldn't bear to see Tang Xiaoxi and Lin Muyu being so intimate. He coughed and said, let's get down to business. Today is the day the demons surrender to the humans. Let's not talk about these useless things. Tang Xiaoxi frowned and said, Second brother, it's an alliance, not a surrender. What's the difference? Tang Lu sneered. At this moment, the fox, snake and lizard man generals behind Ling Huyen were unhappy. They stuck out their tongues and hissed at Tang Lu. Although they didn't know what they were saying, they guessed that it wasn't anything good. They were probably greeting the females in Tang Lu's family. Qin Yin, who was dressed in an empress's robe and holding the hilt of her sword, slowly walked down the steps and said, Ling Hu, shall we begin? Yes. Ling Huyen responded softly, and her 3 beautiful fox tails swayed gently behind her. She slowly knelt in front of Qin Yin and said respectfully, I, Ling Huyen, swear on my identity as the saintess of the demon race that from now on, the demon race and the human race will forever maintain an alliance and will never take the initiative to violate it. I, Ling Huyen, pledge allegiance to Empress Qin Yin and am willing to pay tribute every year. Every year I will offer 5,000 superior war horses, 10,000 antlers, 1,000 boxes of rare herbs, 2,000 rock sheep and 3,000 cowhide. Qin Yin stepped forward, placed her palm on Ling Huyan's shoulder, and said with a serious expression, as the suzerain state, Lanyan City will provide 1 million kilograms of grain to the demon clan every year as a token of gratitude. Thank you, Your Highness. The alliance is established and will never be abandoned. Yes, the alliance is established and will never be abandoned. Ling Huyen slowly stood up with a smile on her face. Her gaze swept across the area, and the 10 demon generals immediately knelt on the ground. Without saying a word, they knelt in front of Qin Yin and placed their heads on the carpet. Tang Tian couldn't help but sneer, beasts are beasts. They are only fit to be controlled by humans. What did you say? Ling Huyen suddenly flared up and her eyes were filled with anger. Several serpent people generals also pulled out their sabers, and it looked like they were about to chop Tang Tian into 2 pieces. Tang Lon hastily cupped his fists and said, These juniors are not very sensible. I hope that Saintess Ling Huyen will not blame them. I have failed in disciplining them and I hereby apologize. As he spoke, Tang Lon fiercely glared at Tang Lu and Tang Tian. These 2 grandsons of his were indeed 2 good-for-nothings. Compared to Tang Xiaoxi, who was calm and unruffled, they were simply like 2 newborn calves. Tang Lon was also disappointed and helpless, but what could he do? Qin Yin pretended that nothing had happened. She held Ling Huyan's hand and said with a smile, Ling Hu, since there is nothing serious on the demon side, stay in Lanyan City for a few more days. Let Xiao Xi show you around Lanyan City. The imperial capital is very lively. Ling Huyen chuckled. Thank you, Your Highness. Ling Huyen understands. Good. Stay in Zetian Palace tonight. Yes. At this time, Tang Xiaoxi took Lin Muyu's hand and pouted. Mu, you all reek of alcohol. You must have gone drinking again, right? Alcohol. No, it's just a small drink. Lin Muyu explained. Tang Xiaoxi wanted to say something else, but Tang Lan, who was not far away, looked at her deeply and said, Xiaoxi, do you still want to stay in Zetian Palace? Do you not want to return to the Duke's mansion in Seven Seas City? That is your home. Grandpa. Tang Xiaoxi walked in front of Tang Lan, bowed deeply and said, Xiaoxi, it's better for you to stay in Zetian Palace. Grandpa, you have to take good care of your body. You've aged a lot in these few years. Tang Lan revealed a pained expression and said, That's fine. It's good that Xiaoxi keeps Her Highness company. Then, this old man will go back. Xiaoxi will see you out. Good. Tang Xiaoxi walked forward and gently held Tang Lan's wrist. Tang Lan's body trembled slightly. He came under the starlight and murmured, If time could go back, I would listen to you and immediately send troops to reinforce Lanyan City at all costs. Grandpa. Tang Xiaoxi looked at him quietly. Tang Lan smiled. His hand was trembling as he brushed away the hair in front of Tang Xiaoxi's forehead. He said, Grandpa, you've obtained half of the country, but you've lost the person you love the most. This business deal is too much of a loss. Tang Xiaoxi almost burst into tears. Grandpa, there's no need to say anything more. Tang Lan smiled warmly. Everything you've done is right. Grandpa is proud of you. Never look back and never doubt. What about Grandpa? Grandpa, there's no turning back. Tang Lan mounted the horse with the help of a servant. He looked back at Tang Xiaoxi in his old and clumsy manner and said, Xiaoxi, there's no need to see me off. Go back. Tang Xiaoxi stood in the evening breeze, her clothes fluttering in the wind. She was indescribably beautiful. She watched Tang Lan leave with an indescribable sense of loneliness. Lin Muyu came to her side at some point. She placed her hand on the hilt of her sword and said softly, Xiaoxi moi. Tang Xiaoxi was speechless. Chapter 385. Roar. In the middle of the night, a loud roar came from the dense forest. Then a large number of armor demons appeared in the north of Qinling Mountains. They carried pitch-black ladders in their hands which were used to climb giant rocks. The Iha Kingdom's soldiers were drowsy on the Qinling Mountains. They were startled by the flickering torches in the distance. A captaincy turned over and stood up. He held a steel saber and shouted, Brothers, wake up. The demons are attacking. The Iha Kingdom's soldiers woke up one by one. They widened their eyes and looked at the sparks in the distance. They said, What the hell is that? What are the armor demons carrying in their hands? Ladders. It's ladders. They actually know how to use ladders to attack. Prepare the rolling stones. We must stop them. Yes. Rolling stones fell down the mountain peak one after another. However, the armored demons had long prepared for it. Each armored demon had a new steel shield on their left arm. They raised the shields and bounced off the rolling stones one after another, causing sparks in the night. Closely after that, the armored demons placed long ladders on the dangerous peaks of Qinling mountain range against the disorderly arrows as they roared and started to launch a fierce attack. Damn it! The captaincy said angrily, Archers, don't stop shooting. Heavy Shield Battalion, get ready to follow me. We must drive away all the demons. Don't let any of them climb the Qinling Mountains. Yes, General. A group of Heavy Shield Battalion soldiers raised their shields and held their steel sabers in their right hands. Under the moonlight, their faces were full of indignation but more than that, fear. Who would not be afraid when facing the black mass of armor demons? They're coming up. An armored demon on the ladder suddenly spread its wings and flew up, diving straight towards the Qinling Mountains. You're courting death. The captain suddenly held his blade horizontally and charged out. A Dou-Qi luster surfaced on the blade. With an explosive roar, he hacked this armor demon off the mountain peak. Holding his blade horizontally, he angrily shouted, All of you stop. No one is allowed to slack. Yes, General. A group of soldiers rushed forward while being greeted by more and more armor demons. Although the armor demons could only fly less than 20 m, it was enough for them to rush at dangerous peaks. In the next moment, Dozens of armor demons appeared in the crowd of Heavy Shield Camp and slashed everywhere with their blunt weapons, shattering the soldiers of Heavy Shield Camp together with their shields. What a miserable sight. Bastard. Captain C rushed forward angrily and chopped off the head of an armor demon. But at the same time he felt a strong chill behind him, so he hurriedly turned around and slashed. Clang. The blade was blocked by a steel shield. Under the moonlight, an armor demon in a commander's armor was looking at him proudly. It was Lei Chong, the marshal of the 2nd Demon Corps. Lei Chong's battle hammer flew up and shattered Captain C's long saber and arm. Lei Chong was too powerful. He stepped forward and kicked Captain C, who was howling miserably, to the ground. At the same time he stabbed the sharp handle of the battle hammer directly into Captain C's mouth. With a sound of puff, the hammer penetrated through the back of his head. This brave captaincy of the Iha country had ended his life. In the north of the Qinling Mountains, the black mass of Armor Demon Corps invaded on a large scale. They crossed the Qinling Mountains in an unstoppable manner. The Iha country finally failed to defend the Qinling Mountains under the iron hooves of Lei Chong. General Long, bad news, bad news. In the ground camp in the south of the Qinling Mountains, Long Qianlin was looking at the list of military supplies under the candlelight. Suddenly, a captaincy rushed in recklessly and nervously cupped his hands, saying, "General Long, Qinling Mountains have fallen. Lei Chong has led the army to cross the Qinling Mountains. Our army has suffered a heavy loss." Long Qianlin's eyes were full of indifference as he said, "I see." Captaincy was terrified. "General Long, what should we do now?" "Retreat to the south of the steel shield wall. Use the steel shield wall as a barrier to stop the demons." Do we give up the territory south of the steel shield wall? There are countless of our cities there. Oh my God. This is the order of the commander-in-chief. No one can disobey it. Order the 3 armies to retreat to the steel shield wall before the demons arrive. Otherwise, even God can't save us. Yes. Captain C turned around and left. Long Qianlin looked at the swaying curtain of the big tent with a gloomy face. Suddenly, he punched the table heavily and roared, "What bullshit General Long am I?" 3 days later, Yushu arrived at Lanyan City. In Zetian Hall, the officials all had a happy expression on their faces. The crushing defeat of the Iha country seemed to be a great thing for Lanyan City. After all, the heinous crimes that the Iha country had committed in Lanyan City were unforgivable. "Congratulations, Your Highness." Tang Lan cupped her fists and said, "In the battle between the Iha country and the demons in the Qinling Mountains, they lost more than 100,000 men and horses. The national strength was seriously damaged. The Thunderchong Corps of the demons also lost more than 10,000 armor demons. This is really good news for the Empire." Qin Yin stood up with a dignified expression on her beautiful face and asked, "Is there any specific information about the demons? Where is their main force? It is a good thing that the Iha country was defeated, but we can't let the demons keep getting stronger." Su'er said, "Reporting to Your Highness, our Yushu reported that 100,000 men from the Qianfeng Corps are hoarding in Dongshuang City, 50,000 are stationed at the border of Lingdong Province, and another 30,000 are building warships at the eastern border of Tsangnan Province. They have enslaved about 200,000 people in total. In addition, close to 200,000 men from the Thunderchong Corps are at the south of the Qinling Mountains." Su Muyun said, "If there are no accidents with Lei Chong's cruel temperament, he will massacre every city in the south of the Qinling Mountains. The hundreds of miles from the Qinling Mountains to the steel wall will become hell on earth." "Those were once the people of the Empire," Qin Yin murmured. Su Muyun nodded. "Yes, it is true that the Iha country rebelled, but the south of the Qinling Mountains was once the Empire's territory. The people of Lingnan Province may also be looking forward to the Empire's recovery." Tang Lan was slightly startled and said, "Is Duke Yun thinking of sending troops to Lingnan to help the Iha country fight against the demons?" "It is not impossible, but the premise is that we don't suffer too many losses." Tang Lan nodded and cupped his fists. "Your Highness, Bugu City in the Earthstar Province is the closest to the south of the Qinling Mountains. It is also the closest place to the Iha country. This old official suggests sending an elite division to guard Bugu City. On one hand, they can wait for an opportunity to move, and on the other hand, they can guard the southern border of the Empire's territory." "Which division does Duke Lan think is suitable?" Qin Yin asked. Tanglon said, "The Marquis of Pingnan Xiangyu is good at war. He has 50,000 elite troops in Seven Seas City. He is more than qualified." Su Muyun smiled and said, "The Marquis of Pingnan has outstanding achievements and is indeed worthy of this great responsibility. However, the Marquis of Pingnan has to be in charge of the battles along the Dao River. He can't do two things at once. In my opinion, it is better to send another elite division to Bugu City." "Who does Duke Yun think is suitable?" "The Longdan army camp led by Commander Yu." Su Muyun smiled and said, "The Longdan army camp has been on the battlefield for a long time and has fought against the armored demons. They have experience. Moreover, Commander Yu has recently stepped into the Saint Domain. His strength has doubled. Therefore, this old official thinks that the 20,000 heavy cavalry of the Longdan army camp is the most suitable to reinforce Bugu City. On one hand, their combat strength is tyrannical, and on the other hand, their marching speed is fast. In the entire empire, which army can be as pure as the Longdan army camp?" As he said this, Su Muyun cupped his fists and said respectfully, "Your Highness, this official Su Muyun sincerely requests that Your Highness send the Longdan army camp to Bugu City to guard the border." "No." Qin Yin blurted out. She and Lin Muyu spent more time apart than together. At this time she wanted Lin Muyu to go to war. This was something that Qin Yin was absolutely unwilling to do. However, she couldn't say this reason out loud. Tanglon then said, "How about this? Commander Yu will lead the Longdan army camp to guard Bugu City, while the Marquis of Pingnan, Xiangyu will lead the elite troops to Iron Blade Pass. Iron Blade Pass is the southern border of Tsangnan province. It will also face the invasion of the demon race. We cannot slack off." Xiangyu quickly cupped his fists and said, "This general is willing to go to war." Lin Muyu sighed lightly. It seemed that she had no choice but to go to war this time. Thus she cupped her fists and said, "Your Highness, I am also willing to go to Bugu City to guard the southern border." Su Muyun raised his head and looked at Qin Yin, nodding slightly. Qin Yin murmured, "All right then." 3 days later they set off. That afternoon Lin Muyu brought Wei Chou, Qin Yan, Fingxi and the other generals to the weapons division. The moment she entered the weapons division, she saw Qin Xiling greet her with wild joy and said, "Commander Yu, the improvement of the arrow boxes has been completed. They can penetrate 40 centimeters of logs." "Very good." Lin Muyu nodded and asked, "I will be going to war in 3 days. How many of these arrow boxes can you give me?" "This." The badge of the weapons division's supervisor on Qin Xiling's chest shone with a golden light under the sunlight. He smiled and said, "With the manpower of the weapons division and the help of the ironware shop of the Purple Een Flower Chamber of Commerce, we can forge about 100 improved arrow boxes for Commander to use." 100. Lin Muyu muttered, "That's not bad. The more the better. We can rush day and night. The more of these arrow boxes there are, the greater my chances." Qin Xiling smiled and nodded, saying, "General Xiang, you just sent someone to place an order. He said he also wants a batch of arrow boxes." "Not giving." Lin Muyu said in a low voice, "Why should I give them the arrow boxes that my people developed? Prioritize the equipment for the Longdan army camp. Also, can these arrow boxes be taken apart and carried?" "Yes, Commander. Don't worry. The 20,000 cavalry in the Longdan army camp will have no problem carrying so many arrow boxes. It won't affect the speed of the army. Also, I will prepare enough arrows for you." "Good, you've really helped us a lot, Xiling." "You're welcome. If I didn't have Commander, I would still be a soldier in Five Valleys City." Haha. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi accompanied Lin Muyu for a full 3 days. They ate together at least every night. 3 days later Lin Muyu left for war. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi continued to stay in Lanyan City, looking at each other from afar. Chapter 386. Early in the morning the fog lingered in Lanyan City. Qin Yin accompanied Lin Muyu out of the Zetian Palace under the protection of 4 female officers of Zetian Palace. The battle was imminent. Lin Muyu was dressed in a military uniform. The dark blue Empire's senior military uniform was covered with heavy silver armor. A white cloak was draped over her back and a silver helmet was tucked under her armpit. She said with a smile, "Xiaoyin, you don't need to send us off. We will march lightly and arrive at Kuku City in a day." "Well, you must be careful." Qin Yin's beautiful eyes were full of reluctance. Don't worry. Lin Muyu was full of confidence. I have dealt with the demon race. Moreover, the one who occupied the Qinling Mountains was the bold but foolish Lei Chong, not the wise and brave Qianfeng. There is nothing to be afraid of. Instead, you have to pay attention to the situation of the steel wall along the Yidao River and be on guard against Qianfeng's large-scale attack on Tsangnan Province from Winter Frost City. Well, I know. Qin Yin smiled intimately. She walked forward and opened her arms to gently embrace Lin Muyu's neck. She whispered in his ear, "I will miss you." Lin Muyu's heart was pounding as he smelled the girl's delicate fragrance. There were many ministers watching. Behind him, the three generals Wei Chou, Qin Yan and Feng Shi laughed. "Commander, when are we leaving?" "Immediately." Lin Muyu looked at Qin Yin awkwardly. Qin Yin left his embrace and smiled with a red face. She said, "I will wait for you in Longyan City. I look forward to your triumphant return." "Yes." Lin Muyu turned over and mounted the horse. She pulled the reins and said, "Let's go." Wei Chou immediately led hundreds of Longdan army camp's elite cavalry and slowly marched toward the south gate of Longyan City. Feng Jixing followed with Zhang Wei and Luo Yu, the two deputy commanders. Yu Planet Earth Province is Duke Lan's territory. You must be careful when you go there. Feng Jixing said seriously, "The guards of Cold Star City and Buga City are all Duke Lan's people. They may not be friendly to you. You have to learn how to protect yourself." Lin Muyu nodded. Feng Jixing pondered for a moment before saying, "I will personally supervise the provisions, equipment and other supplies of the Longdan army camp. I will then have Zhang Wei personally lead 5,000 Imperial Guardsmen to transport them. In addition, Luo Yu will lead 10,000 Imperial Guardsmen to the southern border of the Northern Ridge Province. They will be ready to support you at any time. It will only take half a day to reach Buga City from there." "Thank you, Brother Feng. I will be careful." "When you go to Buga City this time, you might encounter demons and people of Iha country. What do you plan to do?" "The demons are our mortal enemies. We must fight them when we meet them. As for Iha country..." Lin Muyu's gaze turned cold. Long Qianlin single-handedly caused Brother Chu Huayin's death. This hatred is absolutely irreconcilable. I saw how Iha country massacred Longyan City. Don't worry, I know what to do. Then I can rest assured. Feng Jixing looked at him deeply and said, "You never trust the people of Iha country. Never try to become their friend. Kill if you can. Don't be benevolent." "Understood." Lin Muyu smiled. "I am a person who has been sleeping in death for 3 years. I have experienced the pain of losing my family. Don't worry, Lin Muyu is no longer the Lin Muyu of the past. Wait for my triumphant return. I will treat you to a drink." "All right." Feng Jixing didn't send them off after they left the south gate. After all, he was the commander of the Imperial Guardsmen. He couldn't lose his duty. Outside the gate, the 20,000 cavalrymen of the Longdan army camp were ready in the fog. The soldiers' eyes were cold and silent. Their war horses were also very silent. When Lin Muyu rode past, everyone tacitly turned their horses around and galloped away from Longyan City with their commander. At the rear, the grain convoy dispatched by Minister of War Xueling moved slowly. However, Buga City was only 700 miles away from Longyan City, not as far away as Winterfrost City, so grain wouldn't be too big a problem. In the fog, the official road was full of dense sounds of hooves. The armors and weapons of the soldiers of the Longdan army camp were all brand new. The army that Lin Muyu had spent a lot of money to build could be called the strongest cavalry regiment in the empire. Banners were flying all over the sky. The caravans along the way gave way to the Longdan army camp from a distance. Watching the strong soldiers galloping past, their faces were full of relief and joy. They knew that this was the army of the empire, an army that protected the people and would never be as brutal as the Iha country and the Devil tribe. The massacre in Longyan City made the people of the city submit to the Qin family. They passed by many villages and small cities along the way. Until it was almost dusk, a towering city stood in the plains under the setting sun and was surrounded by thousands of villages. It was the capital of the Earth Star Province, Cold Star City. The Longdan army camp had galloped for a day and had to rest and resupply outside Cold Star City. Moreover, the letter of Yu had long been sent to Cold Star City, so there were many soldiers of Cold Star City outside the city. Smoke curled up. The Spiritual Fire Division had cooked porridge for the Longdan army camp to rest and eat outside the city. Taksha was fast. Lin Muyu arrived at the city first and ordered, "Dismount and get ready. We will set off in an hour." Yes. Wei Chou, Qin Yen, Fengxi and the others dismounted one after another and passed down the order. The cavalry of the Longdan army camp stopped at Cold Star City. As soon as the Longdan army camp arrived, the gate of Cold Star City slowly opened and a row of cavalry galloped in. The leader was about 50 years old with 3 golden stars on his collar. He was also a high-ranking general. His face was covered with scars and he was obviously a person who was good at fighting. After dismounting, he said respectfully, "This general is the governor of Earth Star Province and the commander of Cold Star Army, Tang Shi. Greetings to Commander Yu." This was a member of the Tang family and also a feudal lord who was arranged by Tang Lan to guard Earth Star Province here. Lin Muyu immediately put the bowl of porridge in her hand on the table and respectfully cupped her fists. Lin Muyu greets Commander Tang Shi. Tang Shi laughed and said, "I have only heard of the fame of the 4 heroes of Lan Yen before. Now that I have seen Commander Yu with my own eyes, I am really shocked. You are really a brave general of our great Qin." "Commander Tang Shi, you flatter me," Lin Muyu said with a smile. "Commander Tang Shi, it is really hard for you to guard Earth Star Province and the northern gate for the Empire." "Commander Yu, you are too serious," Tang Shi said. 2 days ago the demon race broke through the Qinling fortress guarded by Long Qianlin. The Iha nation was defeated, so the entire Qinling mountains almost became the territory of the demon race. Our scouts reported that the traces of the demon race's armor demon core have appeared on the Qinling mountains less than 50 miles away from Bugu City. I have already sent 10,000 elites of the Cold Star Army to guard Bugu City. Now that Commander Yu is here, we can ensure that nothing goes wrong." Lin Muyu nodded and said, "Commander Tang Shi, how many soldiers are there in Bugu City now?" "There are many in the city. Together with the 10,000 people of the Cold Star Army, there are about 20,000 soldiers. Once there is a war, I will dispatch 40,000 elites and 30,000 new soldiers in Cold Star City. Please rest assured, Commander Yu." "How many soldiers do the demon race have?" The Thunder Rush army of the demon race is busy killing the cities in the 3 southern provinces of the Iha nation that are not protected by the steel wall. They have no time to care about the Empire. Therefore, Commander Yu, don't worry. They will leave no more than 10,000 armor demons in the Qinling Mountains. That's still a very terrifying force. Lin Muyu nodded and thought for a while, then said, "Commander Tang Shi, if possible, please dispatch another 20,000 soldiers to Bugu City to help defend. Once the opportunity is ripe, we will attack Qinling Mountains and take the initiative. Maybe we can also take back the cities adjacent to Qinling Mountains in the Swift White Province." Tang Shi's eyes lit up. "Commander Yu, you want to attack the Iha nation?" "The Iha nation is just a group of traitors. Their land belongs to the Empire. We are just taking back the lost land of the Empire. Before I came, Her Highness gave me an order to act according to the circumstances. As long as the conditions permit, we can attack and defend." With that, Lin Muyu took a deep look at Tang Shi and said with a smile, "Although you are Duke Lan's man, you are also a soldier of the Empire. I don't think I need to say which is the greater contribution, the defense of the Earth Star Province or the recovery of the lost land plundered by the Iha nation." Tang Shi's eyes lit up. "I am willing to listen to Commander Yu's orders." "Good. Dispatch another 20,000 elites to Bugu City. Listen to my orders. Once it is done, I will ask for your credit in front of Her Highness." "Yes." By the time Lin Muyu finished the bowl of porridge on and off, 1 hour had passed. The 20,000 elite cavalrymen in the Longdan army camp were ready. Lin Muyu mounted the horse and gave the order. The army once again set foot on the official road and headed straight for Bugu City at the southern border of the Empire. More than 2 hours later, a few scouts from Bugu City appeared on the official road to welcome them. Not long after, they arrived at Bugu City. Bugu City was the same as the Five Valleys city. Because of farming and fishing, it was rich and populous. However, it was only a small rich city and could not be compared to the 7 great cities. It was even inferior to the Cold Star City. The city was not considered too sturdy. Before Lin Muyu entered the city, the Bugu City's garrison general had already come out to welcome her. He was still the general of the 7 Seas City's army. However, he was very polite and did not target her like Tang Lu and Tang Tian. After entering Bugu City, Lin Muyu fully took over the defense of the city and all the important political affairs. This time Qin Yin asked him to come to Bugu City, so he could not return empty-handed. At least he had to make Earthstar Province submit to the Empress and not just Tanglan's fief. Late at night, Rinpochen took Wei Chou and Qin Yan out in plain clothes to inspect the defense of the demon race in the Qinling Mountains. Lei Chong was originally a fool who was brave but not astute. Now this fool brought a group of stupid armor demons into the Iha nation to burn, kill and loot, and left another group of idiots here to guard the Qinling Mountains. Presumably this group of idiots would not be too smart. This was a heaven-sent opportunity for Lin Muyu to seize the Qinling Mountains. The three of them hid in the bushes and looked into the distance. The flames on the Qinling Mountains were swaying. The encampment of the armor demons was very simple and crude. There were only tents made of grass and rattan. Furthermore, more than half of the armor demons slept in the open air. However, it seemed that there were a lot of troops. Tang Shi's words were not false. They had at least 10,000 armor demons guarding the Qinling Mountains. Big brother, in my opinion. Qin Yan's eyes were full of fighting spirit as he said, "We can send troops to attack the Qinling Mountains at dawn tomorrow. The elites of the Longdan army camp are not afraid of these 10,000 armor demons." Lin Muyu shook her head and said, "How about I take down the Qinling Mountains without wasting a single soldier? When I return, I will send light cavalry to provoke them tomorrow and let the armor demons attack Bugu City. I want to test the power of the arrow boxes developed by the weapons department." Yes. Chapter 387. At night, candlelight gently swayed in the central tent of the Longdan army camp. Wei Chou spread a simple map on the table with fine sweat oozing from his forehead. He said with a smile, "This is the only map we can draw. Commander, you can use it reluctantly. The marks of the demons on the Qinling Mountains have been redrawn." Yes. Lin Muyu put her hand on the table and said, "Swift White Province and Earthstar Province are on the two sides of the Qinling Mountains. This part of the Qinling Mountains is about 200 miles long. The demons won't have too many troops to fight against us." Wei Chou nodded. "The 10,000 demons are scattered at the pass of the Qinling Mountains." Yes. On the side, Qin Yan held the holy spear that Lin Muyu brought back from the chaotic realm. A trace of worry flashed across his face as he said, "Big brother, even if there are only 10,000 demons, they are armor demons after all. We don't have the Daojiang River as a barrier. Once the armor demons attack the Qinling Mountains, I'm afraid that the heavy cavalry of the Longdan army camp won't be able to gain any advantage in the decisive battle on the plains." "Not necessarily." Lin Muyu frowned and said, "In the Battle of Winter Frost City, we didn't know the strength of the armor demons at all. Therefore we sent the cavalry to fight the armor demons on the plains, which led to the final defeat. The armor demons are strong and their shells are thick. Ordinary swords can hardly cut through them. Moreover, their strength has reached the point where they are not afraid of the cavalry's impact. However, we always neglected one thing. We gave up the advantage that the cavalry should have." "What advantage?" Fingxi asked in surprise. Lin Muyu raised the corner of her mouth. "Mobility." "What is mobility?" Wei Chou asked. Lin Muyu explained, "The so-called mobility refers to the ability to move. No matter how fast the armor demons are, they can't outrun our cavalries. We can adopt harassment tactics. All the heavy cavalries should take off their armors and turn into light cavalries. Then they should carry bows and arrows and keep a distance from the armor demons. Then we can keep shooting them with white drill arrows. When the armor demons chase after us, we can send many groups of light cavalries to launch sneak attacks on the armor demons and scatter their forces. Then we can kill these armor demons by using traps and other tactics." Excitement surged onto Qin Yan's face. "Big brother, can this kind of battle tactic really work?" "Yes, but..." Lin Muyu pondered for a second before saying, "Everything depends on the result of tomorrow's battle. Lei Chong's armor demons corps annihilated the Yangwei corps of the Empire in Winter Frost City, which is a disgrace to the Empire. At this moment, the armor demons have crossed the Qinling Mountains and forced the rebels of the Iha country to retreat again and again. The armor demons corps is full of arrogance. We must destroy their spirit in tomorrow's battle." Wei Chou nodded. "We will follow your arrangements." "Good." Lin Muyu nodded and said, Tomorrow 5,000 elite cavalries of the Longdan army camp will follow me out of the city to challenge and lead the armor demons to Bugu City. Remember to install all the arrow boxes on the city wall in advance. Whether we can defeat the armor demon army tomorrow depends on the arrow boxes. Rest early tonight and start the action tomorrow morning. Yes. The flames in the Longdan army camp were swaying. Everything seemed so quiet. However, everyone knew that there would be another decisive battle with the demon tribe tomorrow. The Iha country was defeated. All the passes in the Qinling Mountains were in the hands of the demon tribe. The Longdan army camp must take back the control of the nearby passes from the demon tribe. Otherwise, the army of over 100,000 armor demons of the Leichong Corps would rush into the core area of the empire after slaughtering the Iha country. The next morning, the sun dispelled the fog and the sound of horses galloping could be heard in the forest. Lin Muyu personally led 5,000 elite cavalrymen of the Courage of Dragon Battalion out of the city and arrived at the foot of the Qinling Mountains. The coniferous pine trees by the road were covered with dew and dripped onto Lin Muyu's armor. Drops of water burst out and splashed onto Lin Muyu's face, making him feel a little cold. Further ahead, there was a spacious mountain road leading to the south of the Qinling Mountains. It was the only place where one could climb over the Qinling Mountains. A pitch-black stone fortress was located in the valley. Mozong Pass, the number 1 fortress between the Earthly Star province of the Empire and the Swift White province of the Iha country. However, at this moment Mozong Pass had already fallen into the hands of the demon tribe. In the distance, armored demons holding heavy battle axes patrolled back and forth on the pass. There was also a demon tribe's battle flag on the pass. The flag was painted with 2 strangely shaped crossed long swords. It was called God's Sword Flag. It should be the belief of the demon tribe and probably the reason why the high-level demon tribe were all proficient in swordsmanship. As the horse stepped on the pine leaves, Lin Muyu looked at the Mozong Pass in the distance and said, "Change to bows and arrows. Shoot at the Mozong Pass from half a mile away from the pass to lure the demon tribe out of the pass to fight. We can't go too fast, we must stick to them at a distance." "Yes, Commander." A group of soldiers of the Longdan army camp hung their spears and other long-handled weapons on the side of their horses. They raised their hands to take out their bows and arrows and followed Lin Muyu to gallop towards the Mozong Pass on the mountain ridge. On top of the city gate, a group of armor demons had also discovered the traces of the human army. They seemed to be very excited as they roared in the demon language that Wei Qiu could not understand. Wei Qiu could not help but frown. What are these cockroaches shouting? God knows. Get ready to shoot. Lin Muyu opened her hand and raised the precious carving bow on the side of her horse. She put a special black giant arrow on it. Swirling fighting light appeared on her palm and the power of the overwhelming true dragon yuan fire poured into the giant arrow. With a whoosh, it flew straight towards the pass. The next moment the giant arrow pierced into the rocks with a ping sound, splashing a cloud of dust. Roar. An armored demon officer looked at the huge arrow inserted into the city wall not far away. Closely after that he raised his head and looked at the dense heavy cavalries of Dragon Courage Battalion in the distance. At the same time he couldn't help but raise his battle axe as he roared, F***Sigabina. Commander, what does this demon tribe's language mean? Cobrazil. Wei Qiu asked with a smile after breaking the rope of the demon tribe's flag with one arrow. I don't know. Lin Muyu shook her head and said, it probably means, kill our way out of the city, kill their bloody mothers and dig their ancestral graves. These stinky cockroaches. How dare they dig our ancestral graves? Wei Qiu smiled slightly. After we annihilate the demon tribe, we must dig their ancestral graves. An eye for an eye. The surrounding soldiers of the Longdan army camp all burst into laughter. Right at this moment, the heavy iron gate of the Black Pine Pass suddenly rose with a humming sound. In the next moment, numerous armor demons rushed out with blunt and heavy weapons in their hands while roaring, "Kill Brazil." Some of them even flapped their wings and made short-distance leaps. Indeed, the running speed of armor demons was much faster than that of humans, but it was far slower than that of war horses. Retreat. Lin Muyu pulled the reins as she urged Snow Treading to turn around and leave. The 5,000 soldiers of the Longdan army camp immediately changed from the vanguard to the rear as they hurriedly returned from the pine woods. However, Wei Qiu didn't completely escape. His handsome face was full of killing intent as he ordered, The first team retreat. The second team prepare to shoot. Nearly 300 cavalries of the Longdan army camp immediately stopped their warhorses as they turned around and put arrows on their bows. After a round of fierce shooting, they immediately turned around and left. At the same time, the rear team was ready for another round of shooting. After 2 rounds of shooting, some armor demons who were shot in the eyes and mouths wailed miserably and rolled in the pine woods, which further infuriated the other armor demons. Dong, dong, dong. In the distance, the sound of war drums drifted from the Black Pine Pass. Indeed, these simple-minded armor demon generals didn't know how to lure the enemy at all. Out of fury, they chased after the 5,000 elite cavalries of the Longdan army camp led by Lin Muyu. After getting out of the pine woods, Wei Chou didn't stop the archer cavalry tactic. Instead, he kept following the demons. Although the armor demons didn't kill any soldiers of the Longdan army camp, their eyes were all red as they held their battle axes and ran madly. After chasing for nearly 40 miles, the Cuckoo City had already appeared in front of them. Qin Yan and Fingxi were on the city gate as they shouted, "Commander, hurry up and enter the city." The loud sound of war drums on the Cuckoo City directly attracted the attention of the demon army. A demon general who was running at the very front raised his battle axe and roared, "Kill Brazil!" The sound of horse hooves was dense. The Longdan army camp quickly entered the city. When the last person entered the city, Lin Muyu ordered loudly, "Close the city gate and prepare the arrow boxes. Once the armor demons enter the shooting range, shoot." The gate was closed with a loud bang. Lin Muyu handed the battle horse to a guard and rushed up the city wall with Wei Chou and other generals with a long sword. Looking from afar, the dense armor demon army surrounded them. Wei Chou couldn't help but take a deep breath. "Commander, there are at least 5,000 armor demons. They're going to do it for real." "It doesn't matter. Let them come." Lin Muyu narrowed her eyes and said, "Prepare the arrow boxes." On the city wall, the arrow boxes were placed in a row. The soldiers of the Longdan army camp slowly calibrated the shooting angle, aiming straight at the bottom of the city wall. The shooting from top to bottom would be stronger and could also greatly increase the penetrating power of the arrow boxes. Roar, roar. Under the city wall, the armor demon army roared and rushed to the city wall. Their way of attacking the city was very simple. They used battle axes to dig the foundation of the city wall. The effect could not be seen in a short time, but after digging for an hour it would be fatal. Ready, shoot. When the armor demons were about 200 meters away from the city, Lin Muyu ordered decisively. For a moment, hundreds of arrow boxes on the city launched an attack at the same time. Special steel arrows tempered with fire poison shot straight into the distance and penetrated the bodies of the armor demons. As Lin Muyu expected, the powerful penetrating power of the arrow boxes was enough to pierce through the hard armor of the armor demons, and the tempered fire poison could kill the armor demons immediately. In the blink of an eye, a great number of armored demons outside the city gate had died. However, it seemed that these armored demons were unwilling to accept this result. They still attacked the city gate as they hacked the gate with battle axes over and over again. The arrows on the city wall were like rain, all of which were white diamond arrows. The soldiers beside the arrow boxes quickly twisted the wrenches to recharge and reload the arrow boxes. This process was completed by 8 soldiers together. It took about 2 minutes, but it was enough. On the city wall, it was time to perform archery. Wei Chou and the others pulled the bowstrings into a full moon and shot the armor demons that were attacking the city with white diamond arrows again and again. The city gate was covered with countless marks of being hacked by battle axes. It was already a little shaky. Qin Yan couldn't help frowning and said, "Big brother, the city gate is about to be hacked by the armor demons. Should I go?" "Just be careful." "Yes." Chapter 388. Roar, roar, roar. 3 sturdy and valiant armor demons swung their battle axes and fiercely hacked at the city gate. One of the armor demons had been struck by 4 white diamond arrows in a row, causing blood to flow all over his face. It was likely that his brain had been severely injured. His entire body twitched as he fell to the ground, but he still seemed to want to hold his battle axe and continue hacking at the city gate. Behind him, even more armor demons waved their blunt and heavy weapons as they crowded towards the city gate. Although the craftsmanship of the demon race's battle axes was not excellent and had even become rusty, each battle axe weighed nearly 200 kilograms. When it landed on the city gate time and time again, It had already caused the iron sheet on the surface of the Bugu city's city gate to be flipped over, causing wood splinters to fly everywhere. In the blink of an eye, the city gate collapsed with a loud bang. No one had thought that the defense of Bugu city would actually be this weak. In a short span of less than 20 minutes, the city gate had been breached. Boom. When the city gate collapsed, a group of armor demons with blood-red eyes waved their weapons and charged in almost crazily. However, before they had completely charged in, a powerful Dou Qi pounced on them. Bang! The long spear turned into starlight and pierced through the bodies of several armor demons, blasting their bodies straight out of the city gate. The gatekeeper was the deputy commander of the Longdan army camp, Qin Yan. Currently, Qin Yan's cultivation had advanced and had long since stepped into the peak of the second level of the heaven realm. The Dou Qi on the long spear was thick. Adding on to the fact that he was young and strong, the power of this attack naturally could not be underestimated. However, the number of armor demons was enormous. Furthermore, each and every one of them had entered a crazed battle state. With a furious roar, they charged towards Qin Yan. "Guard the gate," Qin Yan shouted in a low voice. A large group of Longdan army camp soldiers holding heavy shields raised their shields high and guarded the entrance. Qin Yan, on the other hand, carried his long spear and flew forward, guarding in front of everyone. Dragon Qi flew around his body and condensed into the dark golden dragon scale armor martial soul form. Rock wall, shield armor, piercing armor, and other martial soul skills were all activated. The long spear swept horizontally and chopped towards the 5 armor demons. Peng! Qi strength burst out and the dragon scale armor shone brightly. What a good Qin Yan! He forcefully pushed back the 5 armor demons with the powerful defense of the dragon scale armor. With a thrust of his spear, it pierced through the neck of an armor demon with a puchi sound. This spear was a sacred weapon. Furthermore, Lin Muyu had refined the spearhead with a white diamond. Piercing through the hard armor of an armor demon was naturally a piece of cake. Roar, roar, roar! Qin Yan's display of power made the armor demons even more furious. Over 100 armor demons charged over without any regard for anything. Many of them even raised their spears and threw them out. Dang, dang, dang. The long spears continuously collided with the shield wall and the dragon scale armor. The armor demons were born with great strength. The strength of the long spears they threw could be imagined. Qin Yan tried his best to protect the dragon scale armor from being broken, but his face became paler and paler. Meanwhile, there were constantly Longdan army camp soldiers who could not hold on to their shields and were killed by the long spears. Screams sounded one after another. The battle situation became more and more intense. What's going on down there? Lin Muyu was guarding on the city wall. A soldier of Longdan army camp beside her had his head chopped off by a battle axe thrown by an armor demon. Blood and brain mixed and splashed on Lin Muyu's armor. Gritting his teeth, Lin Muyu began to increase the qi in his body and drew out his sword. The attack of the armor demons was too fierce. Even though the Longdan army camp had the advantage of defending the city wall, they did not have the absolute upper hand. This was absolutely unacceptable. With a bang sound outside the city gate, golden light radiated in all directions. At the same time, Qin Yan's roar drifted over. An armor demon who was holding a battle axe of at least 300 kilograms was sent flying by the dragon scale armor. However, his face was full of ferocious and contemptuous smile. Obviously, Qin Yan could not bear this blow anymore. Additionally, this armor demon was wearing the badge of a senior general on his chest. He should be at least a chiliarch in the armor demon army. He might even be captaincy. Therefore, Qin Yan had to get rid of this armor demon general first. Otherwise, the city gate would be in danger. Plang! Lin Muyu drew out the dragon spirit sword. The qi around her revolved and condensed into the holy domain's raging whirlwind. Wei Chou was shocked and hurriedly said, "Commander, you are the commander of the 3 armies of Bugu City. You are a wise general, not a fighting general. You can't fight in person. I beg you, Commander, don't go." "It's okay." Lin Muyu smiled confidently and said, "When I was in the heaven realm I could fight with the armor demons. Now that I am in the holy domain they can't do anything to me. Don't worry, I won't be too eager to fight. I'm just fighting for an advantage for Ah Yen. You guys guard the city wall." "Yes." In Wei Chou's worried eyes, Lin Muyu flipped over and flew down the city wall. Her body was wrapped in a thick milky white battle armor. Her long sword fell from the sky like a star falling into the human world. Boom! The power of the sword was like a god descending to the world. In the sword light, the bodies of 3 armor demons were torn into pieces, and a foul smell spread in all directions. Ordinary armor demons couldn't resist the first strike of Lin Muyu's star tactics. The sword light fell to the ground, leaving a long ravine, and went straight to the feet of the armor demon general. He looked up at Lin Muyu with a pair of scarlet eyes full of ferocity and anger. He suddenly spun the battle axe in his hand and roared, "Cha-baha!" Lin Muyu didn't know what he was talking about, but she knew that he must be scolding her. Therefore she didn't show any mercy. She gently opened her left hand, and a ribbon of 7-color Milky Way slowly condensed. It was the star chain, the second movement of the star skill. She rushed forward and raised her palm. The ribbon quickly wrapped the armor demon general in the air. Roar! The armor demon general kept roaring. His confidence in his own strength made him very arrogant. He thought that his battle axe could chop everything in the world. Unfortunately, this axe was like a clay ox falling into the sea under the restraint of the star chain. He couldn't exert any strength at all. The star chain was like a rope that tied him tighter and tighter, and even the sound of bones cracking came from his arms. He kept screaming miserably. Die! Lin Muyu rushed forward as she abruptly stepped on the chest armor of this armored demon general with her battle boots. Closely after that, she rotated her dragon spiritual sword and stabbed towards the neck of the armored demon with blazing true dragon's original flame, penetrating its heart from top to bottom. When the armored demon general fell down, Lin Muyu pulled out her bloody long sword as she leaped up and landed on the ground. Her white robe fluttered in the wind, which made her look pretty handsome. Roar! Roar! Around nearly 100 armor demons who had besieged the city gate were dumbfounded. Their faces were filled with anger and fear. Finally, they threw out their weapons and went straight to Lin Muyu. Lin Muyu's eyes turned cold. She shouted in a low voice. The golden gourd wall broke out of her body and lingered around her. Suddenly, the battle axes and spears were bounced away. Around her, a group of unarmed armor demons roared loudly. Their commander was killed and they had lost their minds. It seemed that they would not give up attacking until they killed Lin Muyu at the city gate. Facing a group of armor demons, Lin Muyu did not panic. A vigorous fighting aura rushed straight to her high. The next moment, the fighting aura could be transformed into spiritual power. A powerful saint realm fell from the sky, and the field was enshrouded with the luster of golden god-binding chains. Lin Muyu's realm pressure was enhanced by the divine power of god-binding chains, which was far beyond that of an ordinary sanctuary expert. Bang, bang, bang. The murderous armor demons felt as if their bodies were shackled. Many of them actually knelt on the ground. Under the powerful saint realm pressure, they had no power to resist at all. The sword light flashed. Lin Muyu beheaded the armor demons one by one like a reaper. In the blink of an eye, she had beheaded nearly 50 armor demons. Finally, the fighting aura in her body was not enough to maintain the realm. The moment the realm was lifted, the armor demons stood up and ran back. They had realized that this powerful human in front of them was not someone they could defeat. In the distance, there was the unique sharp conch sound of the armor demons. They were giving the order to retreat. Below the city, there were still many armor demons attacking the city. However, they were greeted by the merciless baptism of the white diamond arrows. The resistance of the armor demons became weaker and weaker. In the end, it turned into an escape. Thousands of armor demons fled to Black Pine Pass in disorder, giving up the attack on Bugu City. Lin Muyu returned to the city. Her battle robe was stained with blood. Qin Yan's arm was wrapped in gauze. He seemed to have suffered a minor injury. He said excitedly, "Big brother, let's attack while these cockroaches are fleeing in panic." But Lin Muyu shook her head. "Don't chase a cornered enemy. Moreover, there are still many armor demons. Once we fight outside, we will lose the protection of the city. I'm afraid we won't be their match." In fact, the most important thing was that Lin Muyu had used the Saint Realm pressure to kill many armor demons. However, she had used up nearly half of the fighting aura in her body. It would be inappropriate to chase after them. These armor demons were too powerful. It would cost a lot to defeat them. On the side, Fingxi said, "You're right, madam. The armor demons are tyrannical and have infinite strength. Once they are forced to fight with us in the wild, I'm afraid the Longdan army camp will have to pay at least 3 times the price of the enemy to annihilate them. It's not worth it. Yes. Lin Muyu nodded and said, send people out of the city to pull the arrows. Don't pull the arrows from the armor demons whose blood isn't red. After pulling out the arrowheads, count the number of armor demons and bury them all in a big pit. Bury them deep. There are many bacteria on the armor demons. Don't let them give birth to a plague. Yes. Qin Yan cupped his fists and said with a respectful smile, Big brother, before we set off, Her Highness the Empress added a reward regulation to the military system reform. It requires that after killing an armor demon they can knock out 2 of its fangs as proof. Should we knock out the fangs of these dead armor demons? Ego. Yes. In the old system of the Empire's army, once the enemy was defeated, the way to reward the soldiers was to set up camp, massacre the city and plunder the city's property. However, these rules had long been abolished in Lin Muyu's Longdan army camp. Therefore, getting them to knock out the fangs of the armor demons was the best reward. Looking at the countless corpses of the armor demons outside the city, Lin Muyu was full of ambition. This was the first time that she had won an absolute victory against the armor demon legion. She needed to make persistent efforts to find the weak points of the armor demons to avenge the humiliation of the defeat in Winter Frost City. She could also avenge Min Yulin, Min Zhan, Su Ying and other generals who died in the battle. Chapter 389. The night sky of Buga City was filled with stars, and the sounds of insects could be heard from the distant forest. It was very tranquil. The Longdan army camp was set up in the open space in the southern part of the city. War horses were chewing on fodder and soldiers were training to charge and defend with shields under the cover of the night. In the central tent, the dim light from the candlelight shone on Lin Muyu's slightly tired face. On the side, Wei Chou respectfully held the file and said, In today's battle we lost 316 people, 748 were seriously injured, and 2,174 armor demons were killed. No one survived. The steel arrows and white diamond arrows that we used have been pulled out, and more than 300 white diamond arrows are missing. Lin Muyu raised her head and asked, Where did these white diamond arrows go? Can't they be pulled out? They probably can't be pulled out. Wei Chou smiled awkwardly. Most of these white diamond arrows are still stuck in the bodies of the escaping armor demons. Then forget it. Lin Muyu was a little speechless. At this moment, Fengxi entered the tent and said, Commander, Buga City Lord Wangju requests to see you. Please come in. Yes. Not long after, a middle-aged man wearing the uniform of a civil official walked in. He was very fat and wore a 2-star insignia on his neck. His expression was very flattering as he bowed and said with a smile, Little Wangju pays his respects to Commander Yu. Lin Muyu stood up and said with a smile, Sire Wangju is too polite. What brings you to the Longdan army camp so late at night? Wangju said, Commander Yu has shown great power today and defeated the demon army that wiped out the Iha nation's rebel army. It's an eye-opener for us. With a famous general like Commander Yu, the Empire will definitely be able to recover the lost land and unify the continent. When Lin Muyu heard this kind of flattery, she immediately felt disgusted and said, What exactly does Darren want? Just say it. It's like this. Wangju smiled flatteringly and said, The brothers in the Longdan army camp have worked hard this entire day, and some of them were even injured. As the army that Her Highness Im personally leads, the Longdan army camp is able to shed blood and sweat for our small Chuchu city, so the colleagues in Chuchu city are very grateful and have done their best to prepare some food, weapons and women to send over. Commander, please rest assured these women are very clean and some are even virgins. If their bodies can make the generals of the Longdan army camp happy, this is all our fortune. Where did these women come from? Lin Muyu asked. Wangju was stunned and said respectfully, They are all refugees who escaped from Lanyan City after the war, and some local women who sold themselves as slaves. Their origins are very clean, please rest assured, Commander Yu. Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile and said, Thank you for your kindness, but the Longdan army camp doesn't take in any camp girls. This is our rule and I hope you can forgive us. We can't take any of these women. As for the food, weapons and so on behalf of the Longdan army camp and Her Highness the Empress, we want all of them. Wangju was startled and said, Commander Yu, most of the officers and soldiers in the Longdan army camp are men in their prime. Do you really not need women? There's no need. Lin Muyu shook her head and said, the soldiers in the Longdan army camp can get a certain amount of pay every month, and they will be rewarded after killing the armor demons. Moreover, I will give them a few days off every month. If they need anything, they can go to the brothel to solve it. There's no need to bother you, Governor. In this case, I understand. Commander Yu's strict management of the army is admirable. If there's nothing else, Governor, please go back. I still have to deal with some military affairs. Lin Muyu appreciates your kindness. After we defeat the devil race in the Earth Star province, I will speak to Her Highness about Wang Ju's support and kindness to the Longdan army camp. Thank you very much, Commander Yu. Wang Ju was so excited that he actually knelt down. Both he and Lin Muyu were important officials of the empire, and they didn't need such etiquette. This could only explain Wang Ju's excitement. After all, Buga City was just a small city in a remote province, and he might not have the chance to see the Empress even once in his life. Now that Lin Muyu said that she would put in a good word for him in front of Qinin, it was like giving him a new lease on life. After seeing Wang Ju leave, Lin Muyu immediately lowered her head and continued to look at the files and maps on the table. Wei Chou watched Wang Ju leave and said with a smile, "It's really interesting, these officials." Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile and said, "Aren't all officials like this? It's fine as long as these people don't disrupt our operation." Yes. A trace of respect flashed across Wei Chou's face as he cupped his fists and said, "Commander, Sir Qin Yan has already brought people to dig a pit in the 70 Zhang forest. It will be completed in one night. Are we really going to continue the challenge tomorrow morning?" "Yes." Lin Muyu nodded her head and said with a smile, "The demons have lost nearly a quarter of their troops in this battle, and they must be very upset. They are very eager to wash away their shame, but unfortunately, there are no intelligent generals in the Armor Demon Legion of the 10,000 demons. They are all a bunch of idiots. As long as we provoke them tomorrow, they will definitely be fooled. However, don't attack the Black Pine Pass tomorrow. We will challenge the Jiyuan Pass instead. There are about 3,000 armor demons guarding the Jiyuan Pass. After eliminating these 3,000 armor demons, we can more or less open up the road to Iha Nation." Wei Chou was startled and said, "Commander, you want to go to Iha Nation?" "Yes." Lin Muyu's eyes looked at the file. The fighting aura around him was dense, showing that his heart was not calm. However, his voice was very calm as he said faintly, "Big Brother Qin Lei's head has been chopped off and soaked in a medicine bottle. It is still in Lingnan." As he said this, he raised his head and looked at Wei Chou. His clear eyes were filled with hatred as he muttered, "There is not a night that I don't have nightmares. There is not a day that I don't want to kill my way to Lingnan, take back my big brother's head and bury him under the nation-guarding monument." Wei Chou was moved. His eyes were red as he cupped his fists and said, "No matter what Lord Commander plans to do, Wei Chou swears to follow you with my life and will never regret it." "Yes. Don't worry, I won't let you guys risk your lives to take back lost land. I won't let everyone fall into danger again." Lin Muyu lowered his head and continued to look at the map. He asked, "What's the situation in Lingnan? Is there any news?" "I heard that Marshal Lei Chong of the demon race has led a 170,000 armored demon army and started a massacre in dozens of big and small cities in Lingnan. Blood flowed for thousands of miles, but the rebel army of Iha Nation didn't resist at all and retreated all the way to the steel protective wall. Lingnan is now a sea of blood. Not only did the hypocritical Iha Nation fail to protect the civilians, they even disregarded them. The people of the world should have clearly seen Qin Yi's hypocritical face by now." "I understand." Lin Muyu rubbed his temples tiredly and said, "What about Long Qinlin's army? Have they all retreated?" "Yes." Wei Chou said, "When Long Qianlin retreated from Lanyan City, he took with him 50,000 Lingnan Iron Cavalry. Now the military authority of these 50,000 cavalry has been given to Long Qianlin by Qin Yi. After 3 years of tempering, these 50,000 cavalry have become the most tyrannical fighting force of Lingnan Iha Nation. They are called the Dragon Cavalry by the Lingnan Dukes. They are well equipped and have brilliant tactics. However, after the demon race invaded Lingnan, the Dragon Cavalry has always avoided fighting. I don't know what Long Qianlin is thinking." "Dragon Cavalry?" Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. She looked at the patterns on the table and suddenly a dense killing intent arose. "Commander," Wei Chou was startled and said, "What are you thinking about?" No, nothing. Lin Mu shook her head and said, I have a premonition that our Longdan army camp and the dragon cavalry will fight. Just waiting. Wei Chou continued to strengthen the training of the Longdan army camp. One day, I want the Longdan army camp to completely annihilate Long Qianlin's dragon cavalry to comfort Chu Huayin's soul in heaven. Yes, this subordinate will. Wei Chou cupped his fists and looked at Lin Muyu with concern. He said, My lord, you must be tired from the battle during the day. Rest early. As for the remaining matters, General Wei Chou, Fengxi and Qin Yan will naturally take care of them. As I know. Lin Muyu stood up and put on a milky white battle robe. She said, Have someone boil a basin of hot water for me. I want to soak my feet. Yes, Commander. In the Lingnan province, a steel wall covered in sheets of iron stretched across the continent. It was extremely majestic. It was also this steel wall that protected the Iha country from being destroyed by the armored demon army. On the wall, a young general wearing a commander's cloak gazed majestically at the sparsely lit city in the distance. His eyes were filled with coldness and anger as he said, Which city is that? Reporting to General Long, judging from the direction, it is Chiyuan City. There are about 100,000 people in the city. Now, it has already become the territory of the demon race. On the side, a captaincy said indifferently. Long Qianlin sighed and said, 100,000 people died in the hands of the demon race just like that. We are all sinners, sinners of the Iha country and the human race. Captaincy gritted his teeth and said, They are strong while we are weak. There is no other way. There is no need for General Long to blame yourself. How is the training of the chain iron formation going? It is still in training. Captaincy was somewhat speechless. He cautiously asked, General Long, are we really going to use the chain iron formation to fight the Thunder Rush Demon Corps? If we lose, the 50,000 dragon riders will be gone. The Iha country's most elite army will be gone. Long Qianlin's eyes shot out a beam of light. Still looking at the north of the steel wall, he said, The dragon riders are the army of the king. If we cannot defeat the enemy in front of us for the commander, how can we be the army of the king? Just listen to my orders. In 3 days, the dragon riders will pass through the steel wall and avoid the main force to fight the Thunder Rush Demon Corps. I will personally go out and test the power of the chain iron formation. Yes. The cold wind caused Long Qianlin's body to tremble. He suddenly asked, What is the Empire doing now that the Qinling Mountains have fallen into the hands of the demon race? Xiang Yu and Lin Muyu have led their troops to the Qinling Mountains. I wonder how the battle is going. Lin Muyu is here too. Long Qianlin's face was full of pain. It is late, I am going to sleep. Yes, General Long. Chapter 390. The next day, white mist lingered in the forest north of the mountain range. Looking from afar, it was a vast expanse of white mist. The green Qinling Mountains towered between heaven and earth. Between the mountains stood a towering fortress with white walls. Jian Pass was one of the 3 major passes in the Qinling Mountains between the Earth Star Province and the Swift White Province. It was also a strategic location leading to the Iha Kingdom. The sound of hooves echoed softly. Lin Muyu rode her horse to the front of the team with her pear blossom spear in hand. She slowly activated her spiritual pulse method and suddenly glanced at the southeast direction, saying, There. Wei Chou quickly pulled out a white drill arrow and shot it according to Lin Muyu's gesture. Ow ow! An armor demon stumbled out of the bushes with his hands covering his throat. The white drill arrow had penetrated his throat. He could not survive and fell down. This was a sentry sent by the demons. Although the intelligence of the armor demons was astonishingly low, they seemed to be able to master simple military tasks such as patrolling and scouting under constant training. Anything else? Wei Chou squinted his eyes and asked. Lin Muyu shook her head, Nothing else. When we attack Jian Pass, don't talk to them. When you are 200 meters away from them, directly use your arm strength to shoot the armor demon with the highest military position on the city wall. According to the habits of the armor demon corps, they will definitely chase you out. Yes, Commander. But in fact it was not as Lin Muyu imagined. When they arrived at Jian Pass, it was full of mist in front of them. They couldn't see the armor demons on the city wall. Instead they could only hear the clanking sounds of weapons and armors. It seemed that the armor demon corps was mobilizing troops. Wei Chou looked confused and said, I can't see them. What should I do? It's okay. Let me do it. Lin Muyu urged her horse to move forward a few steps slowly. Under the gaze of thousands of soldiers in the Longdan army camp, she slowly raised her palm. The power of the sanctuary surged and the fighting spirit roared out, condensing into whirlwinds. It was the mental cultivation method of raining sword with wind. For a moment, the mist in the air swirled rapidly under the driving of the fighting spirit. With a buzzing sound, a spiral passage was formed in the mist. Everything within dozens of meters on the city wall had been clearly seen. Right. With a cheer, Wei Chou suddenly raised his hand and knocked an arrow. Whoosh! A white diamond arrow flew out again. A centurion of the armored demons retreated to the ground in response, and another arrow pierced his throat. Wei Chou's reputation as the best archer of the imperial army was not undeserved. Perhaps he was even slightly better than the legendary archery of the old General Su Ying. It was a pity that Su Ying had died in the Battle of Winterfrost City. Otherwise he would have been another fierce general of the empire. Lin Muyu sighed with emotions inside. At the same time, the sound of the fortress gate being opened drifted from afar along with the demon language of the armored demons. Howling and messy footsteps, these armored demons had already chased them out. Retreat slowly. Lin Muyu pulled the reins and urged treading snow to retreat slowly. At the same time she also grabbed the carved bow hanging on the side of the warhorse, turned around and pulled it to a full moon. Whoosh! An arrow containing the mysterious energy of the initial appearance of starlight penetrated the chest armor of an armored demon, and then the head of an armored demon at the back. The strength of the arrow was amazing. Wei Chou and Fengxi looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. Fengxi even said without concealment, "The power of the sanctuary is indeed not something we can compare with." Lin Muyu urged her horse to gallop and smiled slightly. "Don't worry, you will reach this realm one day. Let's go take the armored demon legion to the 70 Zhang forest." Yes. In the early morning of autumn the sunlight fell on the jungle, making people very lazy. However, the soldiers of the Longdan army camp did not dare to slack off. They kept shooting arrows at the group of armored demons at the back while urging their horses to keep a distance. The combat power of the armored demons was really amazing. They could still throw powerful spears, axes and other weapons at a distance of more than 100 meters, penetrating the bodies of the cavalrymen of the Longdan army camp and killing dozens of them in the blink of an eye. Lin Muyu frowned. The death of each soldier made her feel heavier. War was not a game, and the armored demons were far more terrible than she had imagined. When they moved forward, a group of soldiers of the Longdan army camp had already been waiting for them. A Chiliarch flew forward, cupped his hands and whispered, "Commander, the trap and arrow box have been arranged. The arrow box is on the right, marked with a red cloth. The trap is on the left, marked with a white cloth. Please be careful, Commander." "Got it." Lin Muyu raised her eyebrows and said, "Follow me. When the armored demons come, the arrow box must be shot at the same time, forcing them to take the path of the trap." "Yes, Commander." Under Lin Muyu's order, thousands of cavalrymen of the Longdan army camp galloped past and passed through the gaps of the white cloth under the leadership of Lin Muyu. Behind them, after passing the trap, they immediately shouted loudly. About 3,000 armored demons had almost turned out in full strength, waving their spears and axes and roaring. "Arrowbox launch," the Chiliarch ordered loudly. The next moment, nearly 50 arrow boxes were launched at the same time, pouring out 5,000 steel arrows in an instant. The power was amazing. Puff puff puff. Blood splashed everywhere. The super close range shooting was very lethal. The heavy steel arrows pierced through the armored demons' bodies and nailed them to the big trees in the jungle. The armored demons who were lucky enough to not be shot stood there dumbfounded. They had never seen the power of human arrow boxes. They hurriedly turned around and ran towards the deserters of Lin Muyu. In fact, if the armored demons launched an attack on the arrow box troop, they could definitely kill all the people of the Longdan army camp in 2 minutes. Unfortunately, the armored demons also knew the feeling of fear. They had long been frightened by this round of shooting from the arrow box. This was exactly what Lin Muyu had guessed correctly. However, there were arrow boxes on the right and crisscrossing traps waiting for them on the left. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of armored demons had fallen into the deep pit. It was nearly 7 or 8 meters deep. No matter how hard they flapped their wings, they could not fly up. Plang. Lin Muyu pulled out her sharp sword and said, It's like catching turtles in a jar. Shoot them all, leave no one alive. Yes, Commander. A group of soldiers of the Longdan army camp came to the pit and shot arrows at the same time. The armored demons in the pit could only be killed without any chance to resist. In the blink of an eye, hundreds of armored demons were killed again. On the opposite side of the pit, the armored demons about 50 m away were all dumbfounded. In the crowd, an armored demon wearing the rank of Chili Arch trembled his fangs as he raised his head and looked at Lin Muyu from afar. His scarlet eyes were full of hatred. He raised his spear and roared, "Geng Bei So." Instantly the group of armored demons turned around and retreated. They retreated. This time the armored demons retreated without putting up a fight. Lin Muyu frowned his sword-like eyebrows as he watched the armored demons retreating. Just now the demon general's eyes made him feel a bit cold. These armored demons were not simple fools. Their intelligence seemed to be evolving step by step. Just now the general's eyes contained not only anger, but also a warning. He warned Lin Muyu to wait for the revenge of the armored demon corps. Wei Chou slowly lowered the longbow in his hand. After taking a deep breath, he said with an unbelievable smile, "Your Excellency, we won. We won the armored demon corps in the field battle." Lin Muyu slightly nodded. All of a sudden the crowd burst into cheers. This was probably the first time that humans won the armored demons in a battle of equal numbers on the plain. Although they relied on the power of the arrow boxes and the pit, it was still a great victory. This battle was enough to prove that the armored demon corps was not invincible in the field battle. After calculating the battle results, Zhang Tai found that 1,128 armored demons had been killed. However, the Longdan army camp had also lost nearly 100 people. Under such an absolute advantage, the armored demons could still kill nearly 100 fully armored warriors of the Longdan army camp. The powerful battle force of the armored demons could be clearly seen. As usual, they knocked off the fangs of the armored demons as spoils of war and collected their armors and weapons. All of these were ironwares, which were the most valuable treasures in the wartime. Wei Chou's face was full of joy. However, when he looked at Lin Muyu, he was a bit surprised as he asked, "Commander, why are you so gloomy?" Lin Muyu frowned and said, "I'm afraid that our next battle might be disadvantageous." "What do you mean, Commander?" "The armored demons are getting smarter and smarter. I'm afraid that they won't chase us so far to ambush us if we challenge them again. However, we have to take the passes such as Black Pine Pass and Jian Pass. We have to fight them head-on. Wei Chou, do we have any chance to defeat the armored demons in the head-on battlefield? They have at least 5,000 soldiers." Wei Chou frowned and said, "Commander, you're right. I haven't thought that far. Let's go back and see how the battle is going on Ayan's side." "Yes, Commander." After returning to Bugu City, the 5,000 Longdan army camp led by Qin Yan also came back. However, only over 4,500 people came back. Nearly 500 people were killed. Over 1,300 armored demons were killed by traps. It was a Pyrrhic victory. In the afternoon, in the central tent of the Longdan army camp, a group of generals were standing on both sides, holding a post-war conference and waiting for Lin Muyu's instructions. Lin Muyu was carefully wiping the dragon spirit sword. She oiled the blade and wiped it repeatedly. "Commander, everyone is here," Wei Chou reminded. Lin Muyu put the long sword on the long table, stood up and said, "In the battle this morning, everyone has seen the combat power of the demons. If there's anything you want to say, feel free to say it." Fengxi said, "Madam, we are indeed no match for the armored demons in the wild. Even if they only have 5,000 people, we are still no match for them. This is not an alarmist talk." "Yes." Lin Muyu nodded. "Does anyone have any ideas?" In the crowd, a Chili Arch cupped his fists and said, "Commander, I think we should think of a way to let us fight the armored demons on flat ground." Lin Muyu looked up. This person was from the Holy Temple. He was an expert at the third heaven of Earth realm. His name was Su Jiantao. He was brave in battle, so he was promoted to Chili Arch by Lin Muyu. "General Su, do you have any suggestions?" Lin Muyu asked. Su Jiantao said respectfully, "Commander, I have also fought with the armored demons on flat ground many times. According to my observation, the armored demons are extremely strong and invulnerable. Their individual combat power is about the same as a human at the second heaven of Earth realm. Moreover, most of the weapons used by the armored demons are heavy spears, which pierce through the opponent's body. As for our Longdan army camp, most of our shields are round shields, tortoiseshell shields and steel shields. They are very easy to be pierced by the armored demon's spears. Therefore I suggest we can forge all shields. Chapter 391. All shield. Lin Muyu was slightly stunned. What is an all shield? Su Jiantao cupped his fists and said, an all shield is actually a shield with a conical surface. The outside of the shield is made into a conical shape. In this way it can greatly deflect the thrust attack from the front and make the attacks of the armor demons futile. The all shield weighs at least 200 kilograms. Together with the weight of the warhorses, cavalrymen and armor, the impact of 1,000 kilograms will not be inferior to the divine power of the armor demons. With the all shield it will be enough to protect ourselves. If we also have a spear that can pierce through the armor demons, we can deal with the armor demons on flat ground and even balance them. Lin Muyu was overjoyed. General Su, this really works? Yes, Commander. Su Jiantao smiled and said, when I was working in the branch of the Holy Temple in Yunzhong Province, I once forged an all-shield to fight against the wild boars that sneaked out of the dragon-seeking forest. The impact of the wild boar's tusks is very similar to the impact of the armor demon's iron spears. If it is used against the armor demons, the all-shield will also be effective. However, the premise is that the user of the all-shield must be extremely strong and cannot lift it at all. Therefore, I think that only cultivators with Earth Realm cultivation can complete this combat method. Very good. Lin Muyu secretly asked with joy, Wei Chou, how many cultivators have reached Earth Realm in our Longdan army camp? Wei Chou said, Commander, most of the members of the Longdan army camp come from the holy temples across the empire. Therefore our individual combat power is the best in the empire. I have done a rough calculation. We have more than 300 warriors with Earth Realm cultivation. That's great. Lin Muyu thought for a while and said, send my order. Gather all 300 people together and form a battalion. Let's call it the All-Shield and Spear Cavalry Battalion. I will promote Su Jiantao to be the commander of the All-Shield and Spear Cavalry Battalion. He will be in charge of training the All-Shield and Spear Cavalry Battalion. In addition, choose 300 spears and spears from our weapons and send them to me. I will temper these spears with a white diamond edge so that they can easily pierce through the shell of the armor demons. Yes, Lord Commander. In addition, contact the Lord of Cuckoo City. Tell all ironware shops in Cuckoo City to stop working for our Longdan army camp. Gather all the iron resources and forge the shield as fast as possible. Commander Su, please draw the shield's specific shape immediately. Yes. Su Jiantao was overjoyed. He cupped his fists and said, I will not let you down. Go to your work. Yes. After that, Lin Muyu closed her eyes and took a short rest. She had been in the Earth Star province for a few days. The battle situation was relatively good. The Longdan army camp had killed so many armor demons with a small loss. It was a great victory for the empire. However, it was far from enough. There were still nearly 200,000 armor demons under the control of Lei Chong in Lingnan. Thinking of Lei Chong, Lin Muyu immediately thought of his ferocious face and the scene when Lei Chong chopped off the head of Du Hai, the first warrior of the empire. Lei Chong was a powerful enemy. He had to kill him. However, it was too difficult. Based on her current cultivation, Lin Muyu was afraid that she would not have more than 30% chance of winning Lei Chong. After a short while, Wei Chou came with weapons. The equipment in the Longdan army camp was the best in the empire. However, these weapons were not very good. Among the 300 spears and pike, only 3 were of spiritual quality. The rest were only of excellent quality. Some of them could only be regarded as relatively sharp. However, they could not be too picky. After all, resources were limited. Millennium meteoric iron was originally a luxury of the aristocracy. However, very few of them could be used in the war. There were still some white diamonds in the Qiankun bag. Plus some white diamond ornaments presented by the Castellan. They could barely be used to quench the sharp edges of the 300 weapons. After sending people to guard the camp to prevent anyone from disturbing them, Lin Muyu immediately took out her treasured refining cauldron and began to quench the sharp edges of these weapons one by one. Fortunately, these weapons were all ordinary products. The process was also very simple. After quenching the white diamonds, she just needed to plaster them directly. Of course, their power was far less than that of the dragon spiritual sword and the pear blossom spear, but it was more than enough to pierce through the hard armor of the armor demons. After all, the dragon's spiritual sword and the pear blossom spear were used to deal with advanced demons, not just to kill armor demons. In fact, in the eyes of experts like Lin Muyu, armor demons were not terrible. As long as there were no more than 200 armor demons besieging her, Lin Muyu could escape unscathed. After all, she had 2 martial souls, 7 planets' mysterious energy and star skill. Although she was also at the first heaven of the Saint Realm, Lin Muyu's current strength was obviously far above that of Du Hai. She was even stronger than Lei Hong. This was obvious. In the blink of an eye, 5 days had passed. Batches of all shields were sent from the governor's mansion. They were cast strictly according to Su Jiantao's blueprint. They were in the shape of a vertebra and were very heavy. Lin Muyu lifted one of them and felt it was very heavy. Naturally, those experts with the cultivation of Earth Realm would not be too relaxed. Therefore, they accepted Su Jiantao's suggestion and set aside 7 days for the all-shield and spear cavalry battalion to train. This was a strong force to fight against armor demons and also the strongest weapon in Lin Muyu's hand at the moment. In the afternoon a few days later, a messenger rushed into the central military tent with a letter in his hand respectfully. He said, "Commander, a letter from Her Highness." "Oh, give it to me." Lin Muyu was delighted. "Yes." Beside him Wei Chou asked, "Is it an imperial edict from Her Highness?" The messenger shook his head and said, "No, it's a private letter from Her Highness to Commander. It's just a letter from home." "Oh." A hint of ambiguity flashed across Wei Chou's face. He smiled and said, "That's true. Commander has been in Earthstar Province for more than 10 days. Perhaps Her Highness misses you." "Don't talk nonsense." Lin Muyu glared at him. He knew very well that no matter how much Qin Yin loved him, he was the commander of the Qin Empire and Qin Yin was the empress. If he didn't care about Qin Yin's reputation and status, he would be too selfish. No matter where and when, he had to protect the dignity of Her Highness Qin Yin the Empress. He opened the envelope and took out the letter. There was a familiar handwriting on it. Qin Yin's calligraphy was learned from Qin Jin, and now it had a style of its own. The handwriting was delicate and powerful, and every word seemed to hit the depths of Lin Muyu's heart. "Brother Yu has been gone for many days and hasn't written any letters. Xiao Yin is very worried and misses Brother Yu very much. I don't know how Brother Yu is doing. The devil race is entrenched in the Qinling Mountains, the rebel army of Iha Nation is being massacred, and Brother Yu is leading the Longdan army camp to battle at the borders. Xiao Yin misses him every day, and I wish I could fly to Brother Yu's side and accompany him all the time. However, there are tens of thousands of memorials every day and I can't split myself. Grandfather and Duke Lan are fighting for the farmland and merchants in Lanyan City, and they are very vexed. Even though Brother Yu is a bloodbath, Xiao Yin wants to stay by your side even more. My longing is constantly occupying the bottom of Xiao Yin's heart, and I hope that you will return." Lin Muyu's heart was filled with warmth when he read the letter. It was as if he could hear Qin Yin whispering in his ear. With the longing of a beauty from afar, it seemed that no matter how much blood and sweat he shed on the front lines, it was all worth it. At the side, Qin Yen touched his nose and smiled. "Big brother, what did Her Highness say? Did she give us some mission?" "No." Lin Muyu folded the letter and said, "Just to talk about family matters." Fengxi smiled and said, "Could it be that Her Highness only remembered to tell Commander about her longing, but forgot to pass down any missions? You guys should stop gossiping." Lin Muyu smiled slightly and asked, "How is the training of the all-shield spear cavalry battalion going?" Su Jiantao cupped his fists. "Our progress is godly. Don't worry, Darren. We can face the devil race at any time. With these 300 all-shield spear cavalry battalion even on the battlefield, we will not be at a disadvantage like before." "Good." Lin Muyu stood up and said, "Pass down my order. Prepare the ballistae and other siege weapons. Let the all-shield spear cavalry battalion train well. 3 days later we will attack Mosong Pass." "Yes." South Ridge, a towering steel wall stretched from east to west, protecting the land of South Ridge Iha country behind it. White clouds floated past and the steel wall seemed even more tranquil. Within the borders of Swift White Province, behind a section of the steel wall was a flourishing city. It was Sunset City, once one of the 7 famous cities of the empire. It was the fief of Sunset Marquis Man Ning. Sunset City had a large population and a strong military force. The territory under its jurisdiction was also very vast and rich. In the city, a group of people and horses slowly left. Thousands of armored horsemen protected a carriage as they slowly moved towards the steel wall. Inside the steel wall, smoke rose in spirals. The Iha nation's camp was connected together and they were cooking. Lord Sunset Marquis has arrived. With a loud shout, a group of people galloped out of the camp. At the front of the group was a high-ranking general wearing black armor. There were 4 golden stars on his collar. It was one of the 7 marshals of Iha country, Dingxi. With a respectful expression, Dingxi came to the front of the carriage and cupped his fists. Dingxi greets the mark. The curtain was slowly lifted, revealing an old face inside. It was Count Xiang Manning, who had been conferred the title of Marquis Xiang after mobilizing his troops and causing the chaos in Lanyan City. His old face was bloated and full of vitality, and he was hugging a beautiful concubine beside him. He smiled and said, "Marshal Dingxi, you don't have to be so polite. How is the situation of the steel wall?" "Everything is fine. Why did the Marquis come this time?" "I want to climb the steel wall to take a look." "Yes, I will arrange it right away." "Thank you, Marshal." "You're welcome." With the help of several attendants, Man Ning's swollen body slowly climbed the stone steps to the steel wall. Standing on the towering wall and looking into the distance, he saw wisps of green smoke rising. "Is that smoke?" Man Ning asked. Dingxi shook his head slowly. "Parhi, that is not smoke. That is the smoke of the demons burning Red Earth City." Red Earth City. Man Ning's hand trembled as he rested on his concubine's snow-white arm. He squinted and looked hard. "Has Red Earth City fallen?" "Yes, Marquis. After the demons defeated Long Qianlin's army and broke through the Qinling Mountains, according to the Commander-in-Chief's orders, all the land north of the wall has fallen into the hands of the demons." "Is that so?" The fat on Man Ning's face twisted together and he revealed an ugly smile. "It's all right. Red Earth City is barren and the women of the lowly people here are ugly. If it has fallen, so be it. Marshal Dingxi, please guard the wall and protect Sunset City. This is the Commander-in-Chief's highest order." "Yes, I understand." Dingxi cupped his fists respectfully. His lowered head was full of helplessness and anger.